Chapter 191. After taming it, the heavenly fire lingered around the beast's soul, slowly burning it into starlight that seeped into the demon noise saber. At the same time, Lin Muyu's heart stirred as if she could feel the heaven beast's submission to her. The demon noise saber trembled slightly, and with a hum, a golden light flew out from the demon noise saber and transformed into a miniature version of the heaven beast. It arrogantly entrenched itself beside Lin Muyu's leg and even raised its head to rub against his knee, acting like a spoiled child. Lin Muyu was secretly delighted. With a divine beast-level refined soul like the heaven beast guarding the demon noise saber, the lethality of this demon noise saber would definitely be incomparable to before. The tempering of the blade was abnormally smooth this time. It wasn't until Lin Muyu had tempered 12 compound edges that she felt she couldn't continue tempering. There was no doubt that this demon noise saber would be even sharper than the dragon spirit sword. The flames slowly dimmed, and the demon noise saber sank into the water to cool down for a moment. Lin Muyu picked it up again, and with a light grip, she could feel the resonance between the heaven beast soul and herself. Her soul and the demon noise saber's refined soul had already harmonized. In other words, they had already signed a soul contract. As long as this demon noise saber was in Lin Muyu's hands, its power would multiply. "What rank?" Lin Muyu asked. Lulu said, "3rd rank Saint grade, 1 rank higher than the dragon spirit sword." "Wow," Lin Muyu grinned and said, "I wonder how powerful it is. Big brother will know once you try it." This time, there was no need to throw it. With a thought, Lin Muyu transformed her battle chi into an invisible force and infused it into the demon noise saber. The demon noise saber immediately flew out with a flash of golden light. Moreover, in its flight path, the demon noise saber actually became invisible with a xiao sound, leaving only a sharp whistling sound. "He's invisible." Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. Lulu said, "That's right, big bro. This demon noise saber is a light-type weapon because it refined the Sky Beast's soul. The Sky Beast's signature skill is to use the camouflage effect of the law of light to copy the light from its back onto its front, creating an instant invisibility effect. This demon noise saber is the same now. As long as Big Bro uses his battle chi, it can become invisible." "Great." Lin Muyu was ecstatic. This was a true hidden weapon. Only an invisible hidden weapon could kill without leaving a trace. This demon noise saber seemed to have become a lethal weapon after being refined by the heaven beast. From now on, she had to be cautious when using the demon noise saber. If it wasn't a mortal enemy, she wouldn't use it, because with the demon noise saber, killing became much easier. With a thought, the demon noise saber spun rapidly in the air, emitting a sharp whistling sound. After spinning several times in the room, it slowly came to a stop in front of Lin Muyu. Take it down, disassemble it, and put it into the knife pouch. Lethal weapon, definitely a lethal weapon. At this time, Lin Muyu finally felt a little tired. She went out to eat something, then returned to her room to sleep. There were many things waiting for him the next day. First was the bet with Yu Qiyan, and second was the long-awaited sword duel conference. The ranking in the sword duel conference was secondary. The most important thing was the dragon talisman. A talisman that could command 10,000 troops was simply too important in this world. Not long after, Xiaochen fell into a deep sleep. He cultivated the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll on his own. The golden martial spirit gourd faintly appeared above the Qi Si in his abdomen. It quickly absorbed and refined the spiritual energy of the night. The next morning he woke up early. His complexion was much better, and the injury on his shoulder shouldn't affect him too much. Most importantly, Lin Muyu's strength had recovered very well. She could almost use more than 90% of her battle energy. The injury wouldn't affect her combat strength more than 10%, so she could almost fight for the championship of the sword duel conference. Breakfast in the morning was still the Eagle Nest Camp's military meal, 2 large flatbread and a large bowl of meat soup. However, perhaps because he was the commander of the camp, there were 7 or 8 pieces of wild boar meat in the soup. He didn't mind that much, so he ate and drank it in large mouthfuls. Only after eating and drinking to his heart's content would he be able to face the challenges of the sword duel conference today. After getting dressed, he leaped onto his horse, carrying 2 swords on his back. One was the dragon spirit sword, and the other was the purple blade sword that he was prepared to give to Qin Yin. Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang personally accompanied him to participate in the sword duel conference, while the other 2 centurions of the royal guards were sent by Lin Muyu to pay their respects to Han Xiao's parents, wife, and children with 2,000 gold blade coins. This was also the rule of the royal guards. Once someone died in the line of duty, they would have to compensate them with 2,000 gold blade coins. In addition, according to Lin Muyu's instructions, they were to bring Han Xiao's family to the empire to settle down and ensure that they didn't have to worry about anything for the rest of their lives. Han Xiao's eldest son could even join the army when he came of age and received the lowest rank in the empire's army. The viewing platform in front of the imperial city was filled with soldiers and commoners. There was no end in sight. It was said that the emperor and the princess would personally attend the sword duel conference today, so many commoners were hoping to catch a glimpse of the emperor and her highness. Of course, there were also some people with ulterior motives who wanted to kill the emperor and usurp the throne. Thus, the area within 200 meters of the viewing platform was heavily guarded. Only the descendants of the aristocratic families and members of the empire's army were allowed to approach. Commoners had to watch from a few hundred meters away. This was something that could not be helped. Wei Chou walked in front and shouted softly, "Please make way, let us pass." This group of people were all wearing the armor of the royal guards. Logically speaking, Wei Chou could have shouted at the commoners to retreat, but he didn't do so. This was probably related to his birth as a commoner. Lin Muyu liked this feeling because she liked subordinates who didn't take advantage of their power to bully others. They walked all the way into Zetian Palace. The moment they arrived, Chu Huayin came over and smiled. You're finally here. Hurry up, Her Majesty, Her Highness, and that Yu Qiyan are all waiting for you. Is that so? Lin Muyu smiled as she dismounted from her horse and entered Zetian Palace with Chu Huayin. In the main hall, all the civil and military officials were present. Feng Jixing, Zhen Yifan, Luo Xing, Qin Lei, and the other important civil and military officials stood closest to the throne. Lin Muyu was led by Chu Huayin along the red carpet in the middle and directly stood next to Feng Jixing. When he raised his head, he saw Qin Yin sitting on the throne beside the throne. She was dressed in a very ladylike princess dress, and she stuck out her tongue at him. She was originally a peerless beauty, but at this moment, her girlish demeanor made the group of officials fall head over heels for her. At this moment, no one doubted that Qin Yin wasn't the most beautiful woman in the empire. Qin Jin smiled and said, You're here? I heard that you made a bet with Yu Qiyan from the Yuqi clan yesterday to see who could forge a better weapon for Her Highness Yin. It just so happens that I'm here today to witness it with my own eyes. Lin Muyu nodded and took out the purple ing sword wrapped in black cloth from her back. She smiled and said, This sword is called the purple ing sword. If you like it, Xiao Yin will like it. Yu Qiyan laughed coldly and walked forward. He held a long sword in a white jade scabbard and said, Purple ing sword? The name isn't bad, but I don't know if its character is up to par. This Lingyu sword of mine, it's definitely 1,000,000 times better than the purple ing sword. Is that so? How are we going to compete? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Yu Qiyan seemed to want to humiliate Lin Muyu on purpose. He said, How about you and I, one person and one sword, fight with all our strength? Whoever's sword breaks or curls will lose. Lin Muyu, do you dare to bet with me? Why not? Come on. Alright. Feng Jixing, Chu Huayin, Zhen Yifan, Qin Lei, and the others all retreated to create an empty space. In addition, a few royal guards stood guard beside Qin Jin and Qin Yin to prevent them from getting caught in the crossfire. Clang! Yu Qiyan's sword was unsheathed. The blade was sparkling like jade, transparent and resplendent. It was indeed a good sword, but it seemed to be only a mysterious rank weapon. At this time, Yu Qiyan let out a low roar. Suddenly, true qi dispersed in all directions. He actually released his own martial spirit, which was in the form of a flame. For a moment, the spirit jade sword issued a clear sword cry. Looking at Lin Muyu, Yu Qian's eyes were full of disdain. What, you don't dare to draw your sword? Lin Muyu laughed inwardly and slowly untied the black cloth covering the sword. Although the scabbard was exquisite, it was plain and unadorned compared to the other's white jade scabbard. This made Yu Qian laugh coldly. This kind of trash actually dares, clang. The purple ing sword was unsheathed. Lin Muyu deliberately didn't release the light of the purple ing sword Saint Beast. She held the sword with one hand and held it horizontally like a master. With a shout, her battle energy exploded and turned into a milky white cyclone that circled around her. The Holy Temple's battle robe fluttered in the wind. Her entire aura seemed to have changed in an instant. In an instant, the group of women participating in the court meeting, including Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, the First Lady, and the General's daughter, were all dumbfounded. Right now, Lin Muyu's strength and appearance were absolutely unparalleled in the Empire. In terms of looks, Lin Muyu had probably surpassed Chu Huaying, Feng Jixing, and Zhenfang. Yu has stepped into the second sky of the heaven realm. Feng Jixing laughed. Chu Huaying nodded. This brat is advancing really quickly. At this moment, an envoy dressed as a foreigner couldn't help but exclaim, "The strength of the great Qin's royal guards is truly invincible." Qin Jin gently stroked his beard, his eyes full of praise and gratification. The son he wanted was someone like Lin Muyu. The Qin Empire didn't need sheep, it only needed lions. Come on. Lin Muyu looked at Yu Qian provocatively. Yu Qian knew that he couldn't compare to Lin Muyu in terms of strength, but a clash of weapons didn't rely entirely on strength. Lin Muyu's sword was simple and unadorned. Although it looked elegant and refined, it was definitely not useful. He still had a chance. Ha! With a loud shout, Yu Qian raised his sword and slashed forward. His true qi was instantly raised to the peak. Lin Muyu rushed forward, and in the blink of an eye, her battle energy surged into the sword. Immediately, a golden dragon coiled around the blade. In an instant, Yu Qian's face turned purple. He knew he had lost. Clang! They brushed past each other, and a clear sound rang out. Yu Qian's spirit jade sword had been broken into two under the head-on collision. How? How is this possible? The spirit jade sword is a mysterious grade 3rd stage. Yu Qian withered like a frosted eggplant. Chapter 192. Lin Muyu had broken the proud work of the weaponsmithing master, Yu Qian, with a single strike. This was undoubtedly shocking news. Many important officials had thought that Lin Muyu, a member of the Imperial Guard, would definitely lose, but no one had expected that Lin Muyu would win so cleanly. The Yuqi family's treasured sword had not been damaged, but had been directly broken and destroyed. Mu has indeed won. Tang Xiaoxi stood behind Feng Jixing in her position as a princess. She was dressed in a fiery red embroidered princess robe and looked very beautiful. She was also the first person present to speak. Perhaps she was the only one who was full of confidence in Lin Muyu? Beside the emperor's throne, Qin Yin also covered her mouth and laughed. Imperial father, you are the witness. Shouldn't you announce the results? Qin Jin recovered from his shock and smiled. As the witness, I now announce that Lin Muyu has won the competition. Then, according to the previous bet, Lord Yu Qian will have to pay the Imperial Guard, Lin Muyu, 200,000 Jin coins. I heard that the Yuqi family has been operating in Heaven's Pivot Province for many years. 200,000 Jin coins should be a small token, right? As your majesty has decreed. Yu Qian's face was deathly pale. After he respectfully cupped his fists and bowed, he took out a gold note from his bosom. The amount of 200,000 Jin coins was clearly written on it. It was also stamped with Yu Qian's handprint and personal signature, as well as the Yuqi family seal. With this, the gold note was in effect. He presented the gold note with both hands and said with a cold look in his eyes, Lin Muyu, this is what you deserve. Lin Muyu took the gold note and stuffed it into her cosmos sack. She cupped her fists and smiled. Thank you, Lord Yu Qian, for your reward. Emperor Qin Jin laughed and said, You may enter the ranks. Originally, Lin Muyu did not have the qualifications to be one of the ministers in the imperial court. After all, he was only a mere level 6 young dragon general. Those who were able to stand here were at least of the 3rd grade. However, today was the day of the sword duel tournament, so he was exempted from being a military general. There were 2 people standing behind Qin Lei. One was the Dragon Guard commander Chu Huaying, the other was the Tiger Guard commander Zhuge Yun. Hence, there was still one more position that belonged to Lin Muyu, the Eagle Guard commander. But just as Lin Muyu was about to walk over, Yu Qiyan, who was behind her, growled, "Lin Muyu, wait. What's wrong?" He slowly turned around. There was a trace of doubt in Yu Qiyan's eyes as he said, "According to what I know, a weapon that can break a profound rank 3rd level sword should at least be a saint rank weapon. Just now I saw the saint beast soul of your sword. Where did you get this sword from?" Logically speaking, with your age, it's impossible for you to comprehend the craftsmanship of fire and iron and forge a saint rank weapon, right? He knew that this matter would not be resolved so easily. If he did not give an explanation, Lin Muyu would definitely not be able to get past this obstacle. Hence, he cupped his fists and smiled, saying, "Not long ago, a hermit who was well versed in the art of blacksmithing passed by Lanyan City and just happened to stop at the back of Eagle Nest Mountain. Thus, I have some relations with him, so I bought the materials and asked him to forge this purple ing sword for me to present to Her Highness. Lord Yuchi, our bet was only to see who could take out a stronger sword. It did not say that I had to forge it myself." "I see," Yu Qiyan actually laughed. He must have felt that he was still the strongest blacksmith of the younger generation in the world. Hence, he regained some confidence and cupped his fists with a smile, saying, "Although Lord Lin Muyu played a trick, but I, Yu Qiyan, am willing to concede defeat. These 200,000 Jinin coins shall be considered as a gift to the Eagle Nest camp. Thank you, Lord Yuchi, for your generosity." Lin Muyu walked forward with the purple ing sword in her hand. She looked up at Qin Jin from afar and said, "Your Majesty, Lin Muyu hereby presents this 7th rank saint rank purple ing sword to Her Highness. I hope that your Majesty will allow it." Qin Jin smiled happily and said, "Of course. Xiao Yin is your sister, so it is only right that you, as her brother, should do the same. Xiao Yin, hurry up and accept your big brother Yu's gift." Qin Yin was even more overjoyed. She walked to the edge of the golden steps and reached out to hold the tassels under her princess robe. She walked down the steps in a very ladylike manner. Her beautiful eyes were in high spirits as she looked at Lin Muyu with a smile. Her eyes were filled with deep affection. She raised her face to look at Lin Muyu, and her facial features suddenly became restrained. She obediently made a face at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, "Big brother Yu, thank you for your purpling sword." Looking at the eldest princess who was as beautiful as a fairy, Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel her heart sway at this moment. She presented the sword and said, "Your Highness, please examine it and see if you like it." Qin Yin took the sword and pulled it out of the sheath with a dang sound. The blade was surrounded by a faint flame dragon pattern, and the overall design was very exquisite and elegant. Near the hilt of the sword, the 2 words Qin Yin were engraved. That was her own handwriting. Under the surging power of the sword spirit, a flame lingered around the engraved words, and a flame actually appeared 1 centimeter away from the blade. Qin Yin. It was very beautiful, and after cutting Yu Qiyan's sword in half, there wasn't even a scratch on the edge of the sword. The 8 compound edges were not fake. "Do you like it?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Qin Yin sheathed the sword and caressed the sheath lovingly. She said, I like it. Thank you, big brother Yu. As long as you like it, I'm going to join the ranks. In a while, big brother Yu, do your best at the sword duel tournament." "Got it. Thank you, Your Highness, for your encouragement." Lin Muyu smiled lightly and returned to Qin Lei's back. He didn't show that he was overly intimate with Qin Yin in the hall. After all, this wasn't a good thing. Qin Yin was Her Highness, and who knew how many princes and nobles were thinking about this heir to the empire? The closer Lin Muyu and Qin Yin were, the more enemies they would make. With the current situation, Lin Muyu didn't want to attract more jealousy and hatred. After all, his strength was still not enough. If it was the Longdan army camp that had developed and was able to have 100,000 elite troops, then Lin Muyu could be unscrupulous. Before his strength was not enough, he should first endure. This was the first principle that Lin Muyu learned in this world. Qin Yin held the Xin sword and returned to the emperor's side. Qin Jin smiled slightly and said, "Today is a big day. The sword duel tournament that is held once every 3 years. All the outstanding talents of the empire will participate in this banquet. I wonder who will get the dragon talisman this year. Let's go. My beloved subjects, follow me out of the Zetian Palace and to the viewing platform." "Yes, your majesty." Qin Jin shook his arms and walked down from the throne. Qin Yin chased after him and held her father's arm. Under Qin Lei's gaze, Lin Muyu and Chu Huaying protected the emperor and the princess on both sides. Qin Yin turned around and saw Lin Muyu. She couldn't help but smile. "Big brother Yu, your injuries haven't completely healed. Don't force yourself in today's sword duel tournament. Don't worry. My injuries have more or less recovered." That's good." At the side, Tang Xiaoxi quickly caught up and said with a smile, "Mu, if you meet my older brother, Tang Bin, you must be careful. His Firefox seal has already been cultivated to the 7th layer. Its power is extremely shocking." Xiaoxi's older brother? Lin Muyu was stunned. At the side, Qin Yin smiled and explained, "In the 7 Seas Tang sect, Tang Lan has a total of 3 sons. The eldest son only has a daughter, Xiaoxi. The second son has 2 sons, Tang Bin and Tang Lu. Duke Lan's 3rd son also has a son and a daughter. The son is called Tang Tian and the daughter is called Tang Wei. It can be said that in the 7 Seas Tang sect, Tang Bin, Tang Lu, and Tang Tian are all important competitors for Xiaoxi. It is still unknown who will inherit Duke Lan's title in the end." Lin Muyu faintly smiled and said, "According to my understanding, in the Qin Empire, the inheritance of titles is passed down to the eldest and not the youngest. If this is the case, Xiaoxi is the eldest son's daughter, so her chances of inheriting the title should be the highest, right?" Tang Xiaoxi shook her head and said with a smile, "It's not like what you think, Mu. The 7 Seas Tang sect cultivates a secret art called Firefox Seal. The Firefox Seal has a total of 9 layers. It is the Tang sect's most overbearing secret art. Cultivating it with the Firefox martial soul will yield twice the results with half the effort. So, generally speaking, whoever has the strongest Firefox seal will have the most qualifications to become the successor of the Tang sect. As for me, I have almost no chance." But Lin Muyu was puzzled. Tang Xiaoxi giggled, because, since ancient times, the Firefox seal is powerful and overbearing. All the females in the Tang sect are unable to cultivate it. Only the males can cultivate it, so that's how it is. Lin Muyu nodded and said with a smile, "Then Xiaoxi, my condolences." Tang Xiaoxi giggled, "I don't care who the successor of the Tang sect is. It's fine as long as grandfather dotes on me." Lin Muyu didn't say anything else. Perhaps it was better to be like Tang Xiaoxi, who had no desires or demands. Outside the imperial city, when Qin Jin, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Lei, and the other members of the imperial family stepped out of the Zetian Palace Hall's entrance, the commoners in the distance cheered. Everyone squeezed together, wanting to see the emperor and her highness' true faces. "Be on guard, protect the safety of his majesty and her highness," Qin Lei shouted in a low voice. Immediately, a group of dragon guards and tiger guards spread out one after another, forming a 4-sided formation to protect the emperor, the princess, and the civil and military officials. However, these imperial guards didn't use a shield formation, because this would make it seem that the emperor wasn't close to the commoners. However, looking at the sea of people and the cheers in the distance, Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little astonished. It was really very rare to have such popular support. As the commander of the Eagle Guards, Lin Muyu's position was getting further and further away from the emperor and the princess. Instead, she was walking side by side with Feng Jixing. Both of them had long swords strapped to their waists, their hands on the hilts of their swords, and their heroic white robes fluttered in the wind, looking very beautiful. Looks like His Majesty can also be considered to have the support of the people. Lin Muyu said softly with a smile. The corner of Feng Jixing's mouth curled up, and he said, ever since His Majesty ascended the throne, it can be said that he has proclaimed benevolence and virtue to the world. Although he fought in the north and south in the early years, he never raised taxes. Under the protection of the imperial capital, the weather in the 8 northern provinces is smooth, and there hasn't been any war for more than 10 years. The commoners live and work in peace and contentment, so naturally they will support this good emperor. I see. Lin Muyu wanted to say something, but she stopped herself. In fact, everyone understood that Qin Jin was more than benevolent, but lacked the authority of a monarch. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such undercurrents surging in the imperial army. Chapter 193. The sky-bearing empire is blessed with good weather, the empire will prosper, and the 4 seas will be at peace. Today, in accordance with the imperial edict of the Radiant Emperor, in order to demonstrate the strength of the empire's martial prowess, and for the prosperity of the empire's talents, this sword duel assembly will be held to determine the champion. Those who are able to obtain the top 10 positions will be rewarded. This competition will be watched by His Majesty and Her Highness Qin Yin. There are a total of 47 participants, and they have gathered the talents of the 12 provinces. After the eunuch finished reading the imperial edict, 2 royal guards immediately carried a huge wooden board and placed it on the viewing platform. On the board, there were names written in golden paint. There were a total of 47 participants, and the names of the participants were displayed in front of her. Lin Muyu looked at it from afar. Fortunately, her opponent in the first round wasn't Chu Huaying, Feng Jixing, or Qin Lei. Instead, it was a person called Ouyang Jingtian. She didn't know where he came from, but she just needed to beat him up. Dong, dong, dong. A battle drum made of cowhide thundered, and a formless killing aura instantly filled the viewing platform. All the participating martial artists had already gathered around the viewing platform, and they were verified by the officials of the Zetian Palace Hall. After that, they waited for the start of the competition. This process was slightly tedious, but Lin Muyu had a lot of patience. She sat on the cold stone steps and looked at the officials around the viewing platform with an indifferent gaze. The viewing platform surrounded the stage in a fan shape. Qin Jin, Qin Yin, and the rest were sitting in the center under the protection of the royal guards and Chu Chu. On the 2 sides were the viewing areas for the officials and nobles of the empire. Many noblewomen were wrapped in fox fur scarves, and their bodies were trembling as they watched the battle. They even ordered their servants to serve them fruits and fragrant tea from time to time. It felt like an arena. Lin Muyu couldn't help but snicker. She had accidentally become a performer to please others. She really didn't expect it. Not long after, the eunuch announced with a loud voice, "The sword duel assembly has officially begun. The first round, the first group, will be led by the commander of the Imperial Army, Feng Jixing, against the expert from Swift White Province's Sunset City, Luo Jingtian." Feng Jixing lifted his long saber and leapt onto the stage. His eyes were indifferent. The windcutter saber was surrounded by a dense purple radiance. Streaks of lightning darted around the saber. Feng Jixing had already released his purple electric flame wolf martial soul the moment he stepped onto the stage. It was clear that he was going all out. Although Luo Jingtian was below the age of 35, he already had a beard. He cupped his fist and smiled. "I never thought that I would encounter General Feng in the first round. This subordinate is in trouble." Feng Jixing faintly smiled. "General Luo Jingtian, welcome to Lanyan City for a one-day tour." Luo Jingtian. The battle was very simple. Feng Jixing used 3 moves of the wind blade technique to blast Luo Jingtian and his sword out of the stage. Luo Jingtian looked extremely miserable as he cupped his fist and said, "See you." Feng Jixing also cupped his fist and said respectfully, "Thank you for letting me win." On the viewing platform, Lin Muyu curled her lips and said, "Big Brother Feng has become even more powerful after stepping into the second heavenly stage." Qin Lei sat at the side and said, "This old brat Feng Jixing's blade technique is indeed the best in the imperial capital. Luo Jingtian's defeat in 3 moves is also within expectations. On the other hand, Chu Huaiming, you actually advanced to the next round without a draw. You are really envious of others." Chu Huaiming was in a daze as he looked into the distance. In the direction he was looking at, there was also a beautiful girl staring at him in a daze. It was none other than Zhen Xiang, who was sitting beside Jin Yifan and Zhen Fang, the eldest daughter of the divine marquis residence. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Someone's mind has already wandered off. At this moment, Feng Jixing also walked over with his blade in hand. He looked at Chu Huaiming and revealed a disdainful expression. He smiled and said, "Our brother Chu doesn't have much future prospects in this lifetime. This kind of love really gives me goosebumps." Qin Lei grinned. Lin Muyu also laughed. At this moment, another person walked over. It was Qin Yen, who was wearing the Saint Sanctum's Gold Star instructor robe. "Hi, big brother Lin Muyu is also here." "Ah, Yen is here." Qin Lei smiled and said, "How long until your turn?" "I'm in the 7th group, no hurry." A group of experts gathered together was especially eye-catching. Many of the young ladies from the large clans on the viewing platform looked over here. Perhaps many of the young ladies' sweethearts were in this group. No matter if it was the handsome Chu Huaiming, or the unruly and handsome Feng Jixing, or even the heaven-gifted Lin Muyu, they were actually the targets of many young ladies' hearts. It was just that this group of fellows seemed to have no interest in love, and didn't even look those noble young ladies in the eye. In the 3rd group of the first round, Qin Lei went up. Having already stepped into the 2nd level of the heavenly realm, he was already incomparably tyrannical. Furthermore, he possessed the 1st-grade god-binding chains. In just 1 round, he used the splitting lightning light slash to directly defeat his opponent. If he hadn't retracted his attack quickly, that brat's head would have already landed on the ground. Not long after, Qin Yen took the stage. His dragon-scale armor spirit was extremely gorgeous. His opponent's fierce attacks for 7 or 8 rounds didn't injure him in the slightest. On the contrary, Qin Yen played down 2 quick attacks and directly made his opponent concede. 7 Seas City's Luo Bin is going up. Feng Jixing smiled faintly. The Tang Sect's Firefox seal can be said to be an absolute art. If you meet Tang Bin, you have to be careful. 3 years ago in the Sword Battle Assembly, he almost used the Firefox seal to defeat me. This time, I heard that Tang Bin's Firefox seal has already been cultivated to the 7th level. 3 years ago he was only at the 5th level. This year will definitely be even more frightening. Lin Muyu, Chu Huaiming, and Qin Yen nodded together. Qin Lei grinned and said, "This kind of person can only run amok in 7 Seas City. Coming to the imperial capital, there are no less than 10 people who can defeat Tang Bin. Feng Jixing, why do you need to boost his morale?" Feng Jixing couldn't help but smile, but didn't argue. It wasn't excessive for Qin Lei to say that. After all, he had the qualifications to say that. On the tournament stage, Tang Bin was unarmed, his face full of arrogance. His opponent was a general carrying a battle axe. This general came from Tong Tian province. The golden purple flower at his collar glowed with a dazzling luster, and there were 2 golden hexagrams on his back. He was actually a captaincy-ranked high-ranking military officer. Tang Bin cupped his fists and smiled. "General Shi, I've learned a lot." The general didn't back down. Without saying anything, he waved his battle axe and rushed over with a roar. The axe glowed with a faint glow of Do Qi, and with a swing, it carried a murderous aura. With a simple and violent arc, it chopped towards Tang Bin's chest. Just as he was about to succeed, Tang Bin suddenly leaned back. It was actually a beautiful iron bridge. Roar! The Firefox martial spirit cried out, and flames began to linger on his battle boots. Tang Bin took the opportunity to kick the opponent's wrist, and with a "wung" sound, the battle axe flew out of the opponent's hand. Tang Bin then flipped himself up, and with his feet on the stone floor he punched out several times with his fists. The attacking general could only raise his arms to block, and the pring 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 sounds of battle chi colliding could be heard. The general could only raise his arms to block, and the peng 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 sounds of Do Qi colliding rang out. Both of them were at the first level of the heavenly stage, but the general didn't even seem to have the strength to retaliate. Just as his defense was broken, Tang Bin suddenly opened his right palm, and a firefox imprint gushed out from his palm. He shouted in a low voice, "Heaven Rush Imprint!" 1. Flames erupted, and a fiery imprint directly penetrated the general's chest armor. Immediately, the general retreated a few steps, his face pale as he knelt on one knee. The Do Qi on his body had actually been scattered in one blow. In a trembling voice, he said, "I lost." The firefox imprint indeed lives up to its name. Tang Bin cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Thank you for letting me win." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "What a mysterious firefox imprint. Its power seems to be very violent. If Xiao Shi could also master the firefox imprint, I wonder who would be stronger than Tang Bin." Feng Jixing said with a smile, "Princess, she is a girl. I'm afraid she will never be able to practice the firefox imprint." Maybe. Lin Muyu looked at Tang Xiaoxi from afar, only to find that Tang Xiaoxi was also looking at her. Lin Muyu rubbed her nose and smiled at Tang Xiaoxi from afar. Immediately, Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red, and she hurriedly lowered her head. She didn't dare to look at this smelly hooligan, who dared to tease her. In the 13th round, it was finally Lin Muyu's turn to fight. Ouyang Jingtian is a famous expert in the Five Valleys city of the Cangnan province. You have to be careful. I heard that Ouyang Jingtian has exquisite swordsmanship. Feng Jixing kindly reminded. Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. "Thank you, Big Brother Feng, for the reminder." Qin Lei said with a smile, "Feng Jixing, don't worry about you. Don't you know his strength? Ouyang Jingtian is nothing. He can only be considered unlucky to meet you." At this time, the eunuch walked onto the stage and announced loudly, "Next group, the commander of the Eagle Nest camp of the Imperial Army, Lin Muyu, will fight against the swordsmanship expert from the Cangnan province, Ouyang Jingtian." Lin Muyu carried the dragon spirit sword and went onto the stage. Immediately, many people on the viewing platform exclaimed, "Wow, that's Lin Muyu, the Imperial Guard that rescued the Emperor in Dear Song Yuan. How can such a handsome gigolo be so powerful?" Unfortunately, Lin Muyu's spiritual pulse technique was so powerful that she could hear the words of this group of people. For a moment, she felt very depressed. She could only use her strength to prove that she was not a gigolo. Ouyang Jingtian was a 30-years-old man. He was dressed in light clothes. His fingers were long and slender. He held a long sword that was shining brightly. His whole body was brimming with the demeanor of a grandmaster-level expert. Of course, this was only limited to the Cangnan province. As for the Lanyan city, no matter how powerful his swordsmanship was, could it be more powerful than the Sword Elder? Lin Muyu's 4-elemental imperial sword was inherited from the Sword Elder. Clang. Ouyang Jinghan pulled out his long sword and said with a faint smile, "Madam Lin Muyu, I, Ouyang Jingtan, have learned a thing or two." Lin Muyu held her long sword and cupped her fists. "Please enlighten me." "Xiao." Ouyang Jingtian thrust his sword forward. The blade was surrounded by faint true qi. This was an expert who had not stepped into the heaven realm. For a moment, Lin Muyu changed her mind and directly used the scabbard to block. The moment Ouyang Jingtian's long sword was knocked away, Lin Muyu swept her long sword with the scabbard. Ouyang Jingtian spun his body in the air and did a somersault. He thrust his sword 4 times in the air. It was very swift and fierce. Lin Muyu directly called out her martial soul. The wall of the gourd rose. At the same time, she raised her arm. The dragon spirit sword with the scabbard rotated rapidly in the air. Ding, 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 sounds were heard several times. She deflected Ouyang Jingtian's sudden thrust. She felt a burst of numbness in her arm. Ouyang Jingtian could be ranked among the experts of swordsmanship. The strength of his sword qi should be the limit of an Earth Realm expert. Chapter 194. Clang! The scabbard knocked away her opponent's blade. Lin Muyu thrust her long sword forward, and the Dragon Soul Sword, along with the scabbard, pierced towards Ouyang Jingtian. The battle energy around the scabbard formed a spiral of flame energy. Ouyang Jingtian was shocked. He hurriedly moved his sword and shook his wrist. Suddenly, the sword twisted like a poisonous snake and twisted around the Dragon Soul Sword. Twisting sword technique. In an instant, Lin Muyu's battle chi was like a clay ox entering the sea. Naturally, Lin Muyu's attack was ineffective. However, he wasn't in a hurry. He suddenly loosened his grip and the Dragon Spirit Sword was seized by Ouyang Jingtian's sword. At the same time, Lin Muyu's fist was surrounded by battle chi as he punched his opponent's shoulder. Ouyang Jingtian hurriedly turned his body to dodge. At the same time, he swept his sword horizontally. Hua! Lin Muyu bent her body and dodged the attack. At the same time, she raised her finger, and lightning flashed between her finger and the Dragon Spirit Sword. The seized Dragon Spirit Sword spun around as if it had a mind of its own and heavily stabbed Ouyang Jingtian's back with its scabbard attached. Bang! Ouyang Jingtian had suffered a heavy blow. How could he withstand it? Blood was already flowing out of his mouth. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at the Dragon Spiritual Sword that had returned to Lin Muyu's hand. I lost, he stood still and said, Imperial Guard Lin Muyu is worthy of her reputation. I, Ouyang Jingtian, am convinced. But, is it the Imperial Sword Technique? Lin Muyu nodded. It is indeed a kind of Imperial Sword Technique. Thank you for letting me win. Thank you for your advice. After the winner was decided, Lin Muyu's name was immediately placed in the top 24. When she returned to the viewing platform, Chu Huaying, Feng Jixing, and the others congratulated her. Although she was only in the top 24, Lin Muyu had already made a name for herself in public. There wasn't much suspense in the following matches. Zhen Fang, Yuan Lian, Ling Feng, and the other elites of the imperial capital easily won their matches one after another. Not long after, the names of 24 people were listed on the wooden board. They were painted with golden paint and looked to be sparkling under the sunlight. The matches were still going on. There were fewer and fewer people left in the selection area of the viewing platform. There were only 24 people left, and many of them were familiar with each other. Zhen Fang turned a blind eye to Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the rest. His resentment was too deep. On the other hand, Tang Bin from the Seven Seas Tang sect was able to chat with Zhen Fang, Yuan Lian, and the rest. It was as if they were all graduates from the imperial capital's Ares College and could be considered classmates. Yuan Lian held a thin sword in his hand, a faint smile on his face. Young Lord Tang's Firefox seal has already reached the 7th layer. This is truly worthy of celebration. It seems that the future leader of the Seven Seas Tang sect will be none other than young Lord Tang. Tang Bin smiled. You flatter me, Major General Yuan. Tang Bin am not worthy. I only hope to be in the top 10 of this tournament. With the cultivation of the 7th level of the Firefox seal, you will definitely be in the top 10. Young Master need not worry. Ling Feng, who was at the side, had a tinge of worry as he said, this year's sword dueling tournament is not going to be simple. Let's see how the next round goes. Once they meet Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Chu Huaying, and Lin Muyu, these 4 troublesome fellows, I'm afraid it will not be easy for anyone to win. Young Duke Zhenfang, what do you think? Zhenfang's expression was calm and he said, I'll just do my best. As for the outcome, let the heavens decide. Young Duke has a good cultivation base. However, I heard that when you were a deacon in the Divine Temple, you once sparred with Lin Muyu and the outcome was not decided. It seems that Lin Muyu does have some ability. It was clear that Zhen Fang was at a disadvantage in that sparring match. In an instant, Ling Feng's words caused Zhen Fang's face to turn ashen. He snorted, that Lin Muyu is just an opportunistic piece of trash. Just wait and see. We are naturally waiting to watch a good show. Oh right, I heard that young Duke's elder sister, the beauty ranked 3rd on the beauty list, Cheng Xiang, has recently been in close contact with one of the imperial guards, Chu Huaying. It seems that the Divine Marquis residence also values the status of the imperial guards and wants a good marriage? Ling Feng said with a smile that did not reach his eyes. In an instant, Zhen Fang was infuriated. He suddenly pulled out half of his sword and shouted, "Ling Feng, if you dare to say another word, I will cut off your tongue and eat it with wine. Do you believe me? Who does Chu Huaying think he is? How can a lowly commoner like him be worthy of my elder sister? My elder sister is just bewitched. After some time, she will naturally realize that Chu Huaying is not worthy of her." "Is that so?" Ling Feng laughed and cupped his fists. "I misspoke just now. I hope young Duke can forgive me." While Zhen Fang, Ling Feng, Tang Bin and the others were chatting happily, Chu Huaying, Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Qin Yan and the others were listening from afar. Their voices were too loud, it was hard not to hear them. Feng Jixing wiped his windcutter blade and said with a faint smile, "The Divine Marquis residence, the Protector General's residence and the Stabilizing General's residence have been fighting openly and secretly in the capital. It is rare for these people to be able to talk together. How hypocritical." As he spoke, Feng Jixing raised his head to look at Chu Huaying and said, "Do you really like Xinxiang?" Chu Huaying was stunned and said, "Miss Xinxiang's talent and appearance have indeed moved my heart. Of course, I really like her. Why will General Feng object to us? But I also know that it will be difficult." Feng Jixing smiled. "Life is short, and it's not easy to meet a woman who can move your heart. Since you like her, you should be courageous enough to pursue her. As your friend, I will naturally support you. However, the relationship between the Divine Marquis residence and the Royal Guards is very tense. I'm afraid this path will not be easy." Chu Huaying's expression dimmed. "I know." Feng Jixing smiled and said, "What do you guys think about old Chu and Xinxiang?" Qin Lei said, "I don't understand matters between men and women." Qin Yan said, "Elder brother doesn't understand, and I don't want to understand." Feng Jixing was speechless. "You? What do you think?" Lin Muyu laid on the cold stone steps and said slowly, "Just like what brother Feng Jixing said, if you like someone, you should courageously pursue them. Don't let yourself regret it. However, brother Chu Huaying really needs to protect himself. Xing Yifan is ruthless. Who knows what he will do?" Chu Huaying nodded. "Yes, I know what I am doing." At this time, the second round of matchups had already been decided. There were a total of 12 groups, and this time, it was considered a tit-for-tat. Several groups were actually strong opponents. Feng Jixing versus Tang Bin, Lin Muyu versus Lingfeng, Chu Huaying versus Zhen Fang. As for Qin Lei and Qin Yan, they were quite lucky. The opponents they faced were not too strong, and some had not even stepped into the heavenly realm. After all, it was not easy to reach the heavenly realm. There were not many people who could step into the heavenly realm before the age of 35. Therefore, in the eyes of others, Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, and Feng Jixing were all rare geniuses. Lifting his sword, Feng Jixing patted the dust off his battle robe and smiled. "I'm going. Be careful, Tang Bin's Firefox seal is very powerful." Chu Huaying warned. "Don't worry, he is not my opponent." Feng Jixing's confidence was bordering on arrogance, but no one doubted his arrogance. He was the youngest commander in the entire empire, and he was in charge of the capital's 30,000 imperial guards and close to 20,000 scattered troops. His own strength was unquestionable. On the other hand, Tang Bin had a calm expression. Standing on the tournament stage, he cupped his fists and smiled. Tang Bin has experienced Commander Feng Jixing's brilliant moves. I didn't expect that we would meet so early in this year's sword duel tournament. What a coincidence. Feng Jixing smiled slightly. "Please show mercy, young Master Tang Bin. Don't let me lose too badly." "You must be joking. Come on." "All right." Feng Jixing held his sword horizontally, and with a wolf howl, the purple electric flame wolf climbed onto his shoulder. The thunder and lightning caused by his martial soul poured into the sword, and his battle robe immediately fluttered. In addition to his sharp eyebrows and starry eyes, many girls in the capital went crazy and screamed before he even made a move. Tang Bin still fought with his bare fists. He was proficient in the Firefox seal palm technique, so naturally, he would not be afraid of any sword or saber. "Here it comes." Feng Jixing took the initiative to attack. With a swing of the wind cutter sword, the wind suddenly rose, and with the power of the law of wind, it was a swift/desert gale. Tang Bin did not dare to underestimate it. He took half a step back and opened his left palm. Flames surged, and a seal appeared on his palm. He shouted, "Light seal!" The flames and the gale intersected and exploded. Feng Jixing and Tang Bin each took a few steps back. After stabilizing their breath, they rushed to attack again. Feng Jixing swept across the air and quickly gathered his battle chi. The battle chi turned into scorching hot sand that lingered around the sword, and a very fast attack once again blasted toward his opponent, hot sand scorching gold. Tang Bin's expression did not change. He waved his palms, and the Firefox seal appeared on his palm again. He raised both palms and launched the third Firefox seal, Scorching Flame Seal. The raging flames quickly engulfed the front, and Feng Jixing brandished his sword and rushed out of the flames. The hot sand scorching gold slashed heavily on the opponent's palm seal and quickly broke it. Feng Jixing ignored the flames on his cloak. His whole body was raging with lightning, and he suddenly slashed down from above. It was the fourth style of his self-created wind walking saber technique, Wild Thunder Saber. Tang Bin looked up at the sky, and the calmness on his face finally showed some fluctuations. He could feel how powerful and overbearing Feng Jixing's saber was. He opened his palm and directly skipped the 5th level of the Firefox seal, and directly used the 6th level, God Concentration seal. In an instant, the golden light shone brightly. Tang Bin raised his palm and blasted out like a divine oracle. Boom! The collision of energy in the air formed an impact, and it directly blew the group of nobles on the viewing platform until they let out sharp cries. In the end, under the palm of the God Concentration seal, a little blood flowed out from the corner of Feng Jixing's mouth. But his body was in the air, and he didn't land. He directly urged his battle energy, and the purple electric flame wolf howled. He raised the saber with both hands, and immediately, a fiend god star actually appeared behind him. His battle energy was so strong that it was a little scary. Oh my god! Qin Yan was flabbergasted. When did Feng Jixing cultivate to this level? Qin Lei squinted his eyes. This is the 8th style of his self-created wind-walking saber technique, Devouring Demonic Saber. I've experienced this move before. It's really King powerful. It directly hit me until I vomited blood. In the arena, Tang Bin didn't feel good. Seeing that Feng Jixing's tyrannical saber was about to land, he could only brace himself and face it. Flames lingered in his palm, and he directly used his strongest move, 5 Qi Seal. Immediately, the 5 Qi of fate in the world crazily surged towards Tang Bin. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, they mutually reinforced and restrained each other. They grew and multiplied endlessly, and turned into a palm force that soared into the sky. Bam! In the air, flames and lightning interweaved together, and a violent wind almost engulfed the entire battling platform. In an instant, the flames were extinguished, and Feng Jixing floated down to the ground. Half of the white robe behind him was burned. He slapped out the flames, and his expression was very calm as he said indifferently, "Did I win?" Tang Bin vomited a mouthful of fresh blood, and the ground around him was filled with crisscrossed saber marks. He swayed on the spot, cupped his fists, and said with a trembling voice, "Commander Feng Jixing's cultivation is indeed extraordinary. Tang Bin loses wholeheartedly. Thank you for letting me win. I'll treat young Master Tang Bin to a drink later." Okay. Chapter 195. When Tang Bin walked off the stage, he could not hide the desolation on his face. His handsome body seemed to have become much more dispirited. The only person sent by the Seven Seas City's Tang sect was stopped outside the top 12. Perhaps only Tang Bin himself knew how much burden he had to shoulder. If he wanted to blame something, he could only blame the heavens for being unfair and placing him in the same group as Feng Jixing. Although Feng Jixing was slightly injured, his complexion was much better than Tang Bin's. He walked off the stage without a change in expression. Facing the congratulations of Chu Huang, Lin Muyu, and the others, he said frankly, If it wasn't for Yu's dream of the peak that helped me break through and step into the heavenly state stage 2, I'm afraid the outcome would have been hard to say. The power of the Firefox Seal stage 7 is truly amazing. Chu Huaying nodded and said, "Next, it's up to you." Ling Feng is the son of the State General Ling Nantian. His father, Ling Nantian, is an imperial general and also a heavenly emperor. Under his father's guidance, Ling Feng can be said to be like father like son. The Ling family's swordsmanship has always been famous for its speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness. Furthermore, Ling Feng is good at hiding his strength and rarely fights, so you must be careful. Then got it. Lin Muyu slowly walked down the viewing platform with the dragon spirit sword in hand. In the distance, Ling Feng also stepped onto the stage with a faint smile on his face and a mysterious grade level 2 sword in hand. Although it was not as good as the dragon spirit sword, it was enough to compete. However, Lin Muyu's greatest chance of winning was that he was now at the second heavenly state, while Ling Feng was only at the first heavenly state. As long as his swordsmanship did not lose out too much, he would naturally be able to win. Ling Feng hugged the sword in his arms and did not bow. He smiled and said, "Lin Muyu, I heard that your imperial sword technique is amazing. It just so happens that my Ling family's inherited sword manual is famous for close combat. Today, close combat swordsmanship against swordsmanship? Interesting." Lin Muyu secretly frowned. This Ling Feng was indeed extremely arrogant. This kind of arrogance was even better than Zhen Feng's arrogance. It seemed that the state general had really spoiled this son. Ling Feng gently pushed the scabbard with his thumb, and the long sword in his hand was already unsheathed. He tossed the scabbard aside, and the long sword turned into 3 sharp sabers that slashed over. Lin Muyu also pushed the scabbard, pulled out the dragon spirit sword, and faced him head-on. Her wrist gently blocked 3 times, blocking all of Ling Feng's attacks. At the same time, she lifted her combat boots and kicked heavily. What? Ling Feng didn't expect Lin Muyu's close combat swordsmanship to be so good. He raised his foot to meet her attack. Pang! Lin Muyu retreated, but Ling Feng's Do Qi circled around his combat boots. Using a skillful force, he channeled the force into the ground. With a turn of his body, he launched an attack from the side. With a swing of his longsword, he launched 3 lightning-fast attacks. In the air, he shouted in a low voice, "Yin Yang triple layer." With a low roar, Ling Feng released his martial soul. It was the image of a giant flame beast that lingered around his shoulders. The power of his martial soul was infused into the blade of the sword, causing each of the 3 sword attacks to be very powerful. Lin Muyu had a deep understanding of how powerful it was, but the sudden attack also caught her off guard. She could only quickly summon the wall of the gourd. A golden light flashed, and the wall of the gourd surrounded her body, forcibly blocking the opponent's attack. Ping ping ping. 3 consecutive sword attacks actually directly split open the black tortoise shell. With 1 successful attack, she immediately unleashed her Do Qi and kicked the wall of the gourd. Pang! Lin Muyu took 3 steps back and her face was full of shock. She had actually suffered such a big loss in the first exchange of blows. This Ling Feng's family's martial arts were indeed impressive. No wonder Ling Nantian could become a high-ranking state general. Just as Chu Huaying said, this Ling Feng in front of her was definitely not here to give away points. He might even take away the qualification to advance to the top 8 from her hands. Hee. After a series of consecutive attacks, Ling Feng's aura was calm, and a faint milky white Do Qi lingered around his body. He smiled and said, "How is it? My Ling family's martial soul is a 2nd-grade martial soul, Flaming Xieji. It is the soul of a legendary ancient beast. It is not something that a mere 10th-grade gourd martial soul can compare to. Lady Lin Muyu, you are an expert from the Holy Temple and one of the Imperial Guards. You can also be called a pillar of the Empire. It is not shameful for you to admit defeat now, and you can also protect your reputation." He spoke extremely calmly, as if all of this was natural. Lin Muyu could not help but smile. She gently flipped her wrist, and the dragon spirit sword made a faint sword sound. She smiled and said, "Thank you for your kindness, young general. However, we have not yet decided the winner and the loser. It is shameful to admit defeat so early. Alright, then I will beat you until you kneel and beg for mercy. Ling Feng sneered. In the next moment he leaped forward again, and his dou qi turned into wind. The long sword flipped in the wind, and with a sudden whistling sound, the gale directly rushed forward, making it difficult to open one's eyes. However, the force of the blade seemed to be able to pierce through one's skin. This Ling Feng was really too sharp. It seemed that Ling Feng had been biding his time and had never sparred with Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying, and the others. It was probably because of the Gilded Dragon Talisman for this sword battle tournament. The Gilded Dragon Talisman was a dragon talisman that could command 10,000 troops of the Empire. It was indeed very valuable. Anyone would want to obtain this Gilded Dragon Talisman to increase their status and power in the army. Not to mention the wind, how could Lin Muyu lose to him? She opened one hand, and the dragon spirit sword left her hand. However, the power of the laws of wind in the surroundings instantly surged, turning into an even more tyrannical hurricane that rushed towards Ling Feng. Using the wind to control the sword, Lin Muyu spread her 5 fingers, and her dou qi exploded. Thousands of wind elemental forces turned into blades that pierced towards Ling Feng. Almost every wind blade was like a real sword, and it was impossible to defend against. Ling Feng was stunned, and he almost couldn't open his eyes. He hurriedly bent down and shouted, "Xieji Fire Shield!" Buzz! Ling Feng's martial soul roared, and his dou qi turned into a fiery red shield in front of him. It seemed that his flaming Xieji martial soul also had defensive skills. However, the number of skills was definitely not as many as Lin Muyu's. Bang bang bang! The wind blades bombarded the fiery red shield one after another, and the shield became thinner and thinner. Just as the energy of the wind to control the sword was depleted, Ling Feng opened his eyes and saw Lin Muyu rushing towards him. Her fists were covered in flames, and they landed on the Xieji fire shield. Bang! The fire shield was instantly shattered, and Ling Feng's qi and blood were in turmoil. He quickly retreated, but before he had time to catch his breath, Lin Muyu opened her palm from afar. She held a long sword that was spinning at high speed in her hand and rushed over. Using the fire to control the sword, Ling Feng was stunned. He did not even think about it and almost instinctively swept his long sword horizontally. Vigorous fighting aura actually turned into layers of qi armor that followed the blade of the sword. His ears rippled as he shouted, "Sweeping sword!" Lin Muyu was amazed. The Ling family swordsmanship was indeed impressive. They could actually turn an attack into a defense, but could this kind of defense really block the power of the Dragon Flame Spiral Break? Obviously not. Bang! The Dragon Spirit Sword went straight and instantly penetrated Ling Feng's sword sweep defense. Ling Feng was so shocked that his face turned pale. He hurriedly put the long sword in front of him to block. As a result, the high-speed spinning Dragon Spirit Sword pierced Ling Feng's long sword with a ding-ding-ding sound. In less than half a second, Ling Feng's long sword was directly shattered. This long sword could be considered to have protected its owner. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the sword that was broken, but Ling Feng's throat. However, the Dragon Spirit Sword's momentum did not stop. It still carried the spiral True Dragon Flame and slammed toward Ling Feng's throat. Just when Ling Feng was about to close his eyes and wait for death, there was suddenly a "pa" sound. The Dragon Spirit Sword's hilt was grabbed. Lin Muyu giggled and stopped the Dragon Spirit Sword's momentum. The blade was less than a centimeter away from Ling Feng's throat. She smiled and said, "Now, does this count as my victory?" Ling Feng was scared out of his wits. How would he dare to show off? After all, the participants of this sword battle meet had to sign a life or death agreement. Even if Lin Muyu took the opportunity to kill him, his father would not be able to pursue the matter. He could only nod and say, "Lady Lin Muyu's swordsmanship is extraordinary. I, Ling Feng, have already lost." What? Lin Muyu withdrew her long sword, cupped her fists, and said, "Thank you for letting me win." Ling Feng also retracted his arrogant attitude. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Lady Lin Muyu, for your guidance." Ling Feng has lost and you have won. When Ling Feng walked off the stage, a round of applause sounded from the viewing platform. It was from Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. Even Qin Jin was nodding his head with a look of approval on his face. Lin Muyu, the godson of the Celestial Emperor, did not disappoint him. Be it in terms of cultivation or character, she had far surpassed Ling Feng. Lin Muyu walked off the stage and quietly waited for the next match. After a few matches, it was time for the most crucial match. Chu Huayin versus Zhen Fang. This match was very complicated, and Chu Huayin was in a difficult position. After all, Zhen Fang was Zhen Xiang's younger brother. If he won, he would be letting Zhen Xiang down. The Divine Marquis residents had also made ample preparations for the sword battle meet. Zhen Fang was the wager of the Divine Marquis residents. If Zhen Fang lost, Zhen Yifan would not look good either. However, if Chu Huayin lost, it would be a disgrace to the royal guards and the royal family. Chu Huayin stood up majestically. His clear eyes looked towards the stage in the distance. That was his dream. Feng Jixing sat on the cold stone steps and smiled. Surnamed Chu, if you use the star-plucking finger, you have about a 50% chance of winning against Zhen Fang. If you don't use it, then you will definitely lose. I heard that Zhen Fang has also consumed Dream of the Extreme Peak and stepped into the second heavenly realm. He passed down all his skills to Xing Yifan. Just do as you see fit. Chu Huayin's expression was calm. I will strive to win. All right. On the viewing platform, Zheng Yifan squinted his eyes and said plainly, Feng Er, your opponent is Chu Huayin. He is not an opponent to be underestimated. Chu Huayin's star-plucking finger was inherited from a hermit master. The power of his finger is so strong that it can even penetrate the armor of battle qi. Now that Chu Huayin has stepped into the second heavenly realm, if you can't defeat him with force, then use your wits. Yes, Lord Father. Zheng Fang held his long sword and smiled. Don't worry, I will definitely defeat this trash. I will also let sister know that trash cannot be the son-in-law of the Zheng family. Zhen Xiang frowned slightly. There was no expression on her pretty face. She only said plainly, Brother, just be careful. Zheng Fang wanted to say something but stopped. He knew that Zhen Xiang's words were full of deep meaning. Chapter 196. The cold wind rustled his battle robe, and the ends of Chu Huayin's long hair fluttered in the wind. He carried his sword on his back, as if he didn't intend to fight with his sword. His right hand hung low, and fighting aura surrounded his fingertips. His body glowed with a faint purple light, and his martial soul, the sable, was about to appear. Zhen Fang held a long and thin sword, and his expression was fierce as he sneered, Stop, Chu Huayin. Although you're a member of the royal guard, you should know that there's a huge difference in status between you and my sister. You're just a lowly noble, and you don't even have a title of nobility. How are you worthy of my sister? I advise you to rein in your horse before it's too late. You won't make a huge mistake. Chu Huayin's gaze was like water, and his voice was extremely calm as he said, There's a difference in status between people, but there shouldn't be a difference in character. Young Duke, although Xinxiang comes from a rich and powerful family, Chu Huayin is confident that with my strength, I can let her live a good life. I'll protect her for the rest of her life and give her happiness. Zhen Fang said angrily, You want to give my sister happiness? Why don't you look in the mirror? Chu Huayin, you lowly bastard. Since you're so stubborn, don't blame me for being impolite. Today, only one of us can walk off the stage alive. Is that so? Chu Huayin smiled and said, Then, I'll have to ask you to teach me. Buzz. Zhen Fang thrust his sword forward, stepping on his martial soul, the glazed pagoda. The blade of his sword was surrounded by sharp sword aura, and it was obvious that he was an expert swordsman from the way he raised his sword. The sword aura instantly spread out, and it didn't look like a single attack. Instead, it looked like thousands of pear blossoms had bloomed in the air. Almost all of Chu Huayin's acupoints were within the range of the sword aura. The strength of Zhen Fang's strike was boosted by the glazed pagoda, so it naturally couldn't be underestimated. Not to mention that Zhenfang had already stepped into the second level of the heavenly realm, so the ruthlessness of this strike was obvious. Just as Chu Huayin retreated to the edge of the martial arts arena, he suddenly leaped up and left Zhenfang's attack range. His battle energy surged in midair, and the next moment he launched an attack from midair. His palms turned into fingers and instantly released thousands of star-picking fingers. It was as if thousands of stars were descending from the sky. The magnificence of his moves was indeed rare. Golden Bell Shield. Zhenfang spun around and stood on the ground, but he still activated his martial soul skill. A golden barrier appeared around his body, and Chu Huaying's star-plucking finger caused golden ripples to appear on the golden barrier. Just as his body was about to fall, Zhenfang rushed over with his sword in hand. A sword light flashed, and a ruthless sword shot into the sky. Battle energy gathered in his palms, and Chu Huaying's body suddenly spun in a spiral, perfectly dodging Zhenfang's sword energy. He spun around and landed on the ground, shouting, "Golden snake coiling." His movement technique was extremely mysterious. Just as Feng Jixing had said, no one knew who Chu Huaying's master was. However, just based on his skills alone, it was enough for him to stand proudly on the mainland. In fact, Feng Jixing had once said that he would rather face Qin Lei than Chu Huaying's tricky and magnificent moves. This was enough to show how extraordinary Chu Huaying's cultivation was. However, just as Chu Huaying landed on the ground with the golden snake coiling, Zhenfang suddenly launched another attack. His sword spun in the air, and countless sword energies raged towards Chu Huaying. Myriad Sword Technique. This was a technique that used sword energy to control one sword. It wasn't very rare, but Zhenfang's move was as swift as a gust of wind and lightning. Furthermore, the timing was very exquisite. He launched his attack the moment Chu Huaying landed on the ground. At this moment, Chu Huaying needed half a second to recover his battle energy, which was also when he was at his weakest. A wisp of blood spurted out from Chu Huaying's shoulder. Following that, more and more blood spurted out. In the blink of an eye, his chest had already been pierced through by 4 to 5 holes. Although they weren't serious injuries, he looked very miserable. On the viewing platform, Jinxiang suddenly stood up. Her pair of beautiful eyes were filled with shock and worry. "Lord Chu, Jinxiang." Zhenfang frowned and said, "Sit down. Don't forget that his opponent is your younger brother. You are a member of the Zhenfang family, so you should have the pride of a Zhenfang family member. How can you lose your composure for a mere imperial guard?" "Father." Jinxiang slowly sat down, but her gaze didn't leave Chu Huaying. She bit her red lips, and a trace of pain appeared on her face. She said, "I only hope that father can fulfill our wish. Other than Chu Huaying, Jinxiang will never fall in love with any other man." "Is that so?" Zhenfang faintly smiled. He raised his head and leisurely said, "Love and hate, gather and disperse. In the endless flow of time, what does it count for? One day, you will understand this truth." Jinxiang suddenly lowered her head and looked at the ground. She faintly smiled and said, "I would rather choose not to understand this truth." Zhenfang angrily glared at his own daughter. However, he suddenly sighed and said, "Father has spoiled you since you were young. Whatever you want, I will give you. However, this is the only thing that I can't let you do as you please. If it was someone else, even if they were born in a poor family, I would have nothing to say. It's fine as long as you like them. But this Chu Huaying, he is Feng Jixing and Qin Yan's man. The grudge between him and the Divine Marquis Mansion is simply irreconcilable. Qin Lei can't wait to kill father in anger. Do you really want to consign father to eternal damnation?" Jinxiang was speechless. She raised her head and looked at the arena again. Chu Huaying's handsome figure had already launched a counterattack. The battle chi in his body had turned into starlight and surrounded his body. His fingers were like butterflies flying in the air, shooting out beams of starlight. The star-plucking finger, as the name suggested, could pluck stars to injure people. These beams of starlight bombarded Zhenfang, making it almost impossible for him to get close. After fighting for a long time, Jinfeng had already fallen into a disadvantageous position. Perhaps Chu Huaying's injuries looked very miserable, but only Jinfeng himself knew how miserable his situation was. Many of the major acupoints in his body had been sealed by Chu Huaying's star-plucking finger. Even the strength to hold his sword seemed to be a little strained, let alone to use the imperial sword technique. Another swift and fierce, star-plucking finger directly pierced through Jinfeng's Holy Temple battle robe and battle armor. His Holy Temple deacon's golden insignia instantly shattered and rolled on the ground. Jinfeng didn't even look at the Holy Temple insignia. Instead, he forcibly gathered his true qi and leaped up to counterattack. His long sword was like a poisonous snake as it pierced towards Chu Huaying's danton. Was he trying to destroy Chu Huaying's energy sea? For a cultivator, there was probably nothing more important than the energy sea. Chu Huaying was slightly angered. His left hand suddenly turned into a palm, and a palm descended from the sky. He shouted, "Moon imprint palm." Boom! The force of the palm descended from the sky and directly landed on Jinfeng's back, blasting him to the ground along with his sword. His face even heavily collided with the hard stone floor, causing blood to flow, and it was a tragic sight to behold. "Let's stop here," Chu Huaying said lightly. "Young Duke, you have already lost. There is no need to struggle anymore. Just admit defeat." Jinfeng's face was full of dejection and regret. Tears swirled in his eyes. As the young Duke of the Divine Ho residence and one of the 12 deacons of the Holy Temple, he actually lost so miserably. Furthermore, he didn't lose to experts like Feng Jixing or Qin Lei. Instead, he lost to a nameless royal guard. How could he endure such humiliation? Chu Huaying. Jinfeng raised his head and looked at Chu Huaying. He said softly, "If you really want to marry my sister, then listen to me." Chu Huaying was slightly stunned. Jinxiang was his only weakness other than Chu Yao. Once he heard that he had a chance to be with the person he loved, he lost his ability to judge. He squatted down and asked, "Young Duke, do you have any ideas?" Of course, just as Chu Huaying was very close, Jinfeng suddenly reached out and grabbed Chu Huaying's collar. The long sword in his right hand pierced into Chu Huaying's dantian at lightning speed. Blood splattered, but it was only a superficial wound. After all, Chu Huaying's battle aura armor had not been broken. The long sword cut a long wound on his abdomen and blood flowed out. Chu Huaying was furious. He raised his hand and slammed it directly on Jinfeng's abdomen. It was also the location of his qi si. A powerful moon reflection palm landed. Boom! Blood splattered from Jinfeng's dantian as if it had exploded. At this moment, his qi si had been destroyed. "Chu Huaying, how dare you?" Zheng Yifan stood up abruptly. His figure flashed, and like a goshawk, he swooped towards the martial arts arena. He raised his palm and attacked from above. How could Chu Huaying withstand an attack that was filled with Saint Realm dark force? He even gave up on defending himself. He closed his eyes and said with a faint smile, "I, Chu Huaying, have a clear conscience." At this moment, another figure attacked like lightning. Flames soared into the sky and a huge fire cauldron blocked in front of Chu Huaying. It was Fire Cauldron Chu Chu. Boom! The flames exploded. Chu Chu and Jinfeng retreated a few steps after their palms collided. Jinfeng also fell from the sky and landed beside Jinfeng. "Marquis, everyone in the sword battle tournament has to sign a life and death agreement." Young noble Marquis launched a sneak attack first. "It's not Chu Huaying's fault. I hope Marquis will understand and not vent his anger on Chu Huaying." Chu Chu cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Young noble Marcus Qi Si being destroyed is the will of the heavens. My condolences." "You!" Jinfeng shouted angrily and glared at Chu Chu. However, he did not flare up. He did not have the confidence to win against Chu Chu. Jinfeng turned around and hugged Jinfeng. He checked his injuries and found that his qi si had completely leaked out. Jinfeng's cultivation was also destroyed. The battle energy stored in his body had all returned to heaven and earth. Jinfang's eyes were closed, and he fainted. He did not know anything. Jinfang trembled and roared, "Heaven and earth are unfair. Why are they treating me like this?" Chapter 197. Brother Chu, shall we go down? Lin Muyu walked up the stage and held onto Chu Huai's arm as she walked down the stage shakily. Chu Huai was in a daze. Although he won, it was a Pyrrhic victory. His physical injuries were nothing compared to his mental injuries. He had accidentally destroyed Jinfang's Qi. Since then, he had formed a deep hatred with the divine marquis residents. His relationship with Jinxiang seemed even more impossible. Chu Huai didn't even dare to look in Jinxiang's direction. When they returned to the viewing platform, Lin Muyu comforted him, "It's not your fault, don't feel guilty." That's right, it was that Jinfang who launched a sneak attack first. How shameless! Qin Lei rubbed his palms together and said, "This is the Zetian Palace. Who does Jinfang think he is? How dare he try to kill you? Hold on. A despicable person like Jinfang should have his Qi destroyed and his dragon tendons broken. Let's see if he can still be so arrogant after that." Feng Jixing actually understood Chu Huai the best. He sighed and said, "Brother Chu, there's no need to despair. There's always a way out. Maybe there'll be a day when you'll see the light." "I hope so." Chu Huai's face was pale as he sat there dejectedly. At this moment, the Emperor Qinjin personally walked down the viewing platform and comforted him. "Jinxing, don't be too sad. Chu Huai accidentally injured Jinfang. It's not his fault. I will order the people from the Spiritual Medicine Division to search for famous doctors and elixirs. They will definitely be able to heal Jinfang's Qi." Jinfang's expression was sorrowful. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for your mercy. I thank you on behalf of my son." Qinjin nodded and said, "Come, confer Jinfang the title of Count Shenwei and the title of Eastern Suppression General. He will officially become one of the 13 counts of the empire. This title will be passed down from generation to generation. Also, grant him a luxurious residence in the outskirts of Lanyan City and 200,000 Jinin coins." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Jinfang cupped his fists and bowed, but his eyes were filled with sorrow. He said, "Come, send the young duke to the Spiritual Medicine Division for treatment." A group of Shenwei battalion soldiers immediately carried Jinfang to receive treatment. Jinfang bowed to the Emperor Qinjin again and left hurriedly. A Xing Yifan accompanied Xing Fang on the horse carriage as it traveled along Tongtian Street. Xing Yifan's face was ashen. Beside him, the 1,000-man commander of the Divine Might Battalion, Sikong Nan, was galloping madly on his horse. He had a look of resentment on his face as he said, "Chu Huaiqiang took the opportunity to destroy the young noble's sea of qi. He did it on purpose. Damn it, the emperor bestowed the young noble with so many titles, mansions, and coins, but he didn't give the young noble any military power. Marquis, how can the divine marquis residents tolerate such humiliation? Then what do you want?" Zhen Yifan's eyes shone brightly as he said, "Speak. Why don't we?" Sikong Nan cupped his fists and said, "Why don't we immediately gather the Divine Might Battalion and send a letter to the commanders of the Tianshu Province, Songnan Province, and Earth Star Province, asking them to lead their troops and attack the imperial capital? The military strength of the commanders is almost 200,000, but the imperial capital only has 30,000 imperial guards. Even with the addition of the royal guards and the patrolling troops, there are no more than 50,000 people. We can definitely break the city in half a month." Then, Sikong Nan became excited as he spoke, but when he met Xing Yifan's cold gaze, he immediately trembled and said, "Marquis, did I say something wrong?" Xing Yifan said angrily, "Sikong Nan, remember this. I, Xing Yifan, was conferred the title of Divine Marquis by the current emperor, Qinjin. I, Xing Yifan, will forever be the Divine Marquis of the Qin Empire. Whoever wants to replace His Majesty will have to step over my dead body. From now on, if I hear you say such disgraceful words again, don't blame me for escorting you into the imperial city and handing you over to Xiangyu of the military police battalion." My, Sikongnan shuddered and said, I won't dare to do it again. Zheng Yifan lowered his head and looked at Zheng Fang, who was frowning, then looked up at the sky thoughtfully. He sighed, as if he had aged a lot in just a short while. On the viewing platform, the sword duel competition continued until noon. Finally, the final 12 winners were decided, and the final champion would be decided among these 12 people. The next competition would be held in the afternoon, and the emperor would personally entertain the 12 winners at Zetian Palace. At noon, a golden cauldron was set up, filled with exquisite food. Many of the food was presented by the other 11 provinces as tributes, such as fresh fruits from Lingnan, bear paws from Lingdong Province, wild cloud deer meat from Tongtian Province, swans from Yunzhong Province, and 7-core begonia from Qihai City. When the musicians rang the chimes, they also announced the start of the banquet. There were groups of palace maids, and the courtiers were respectfully kneeling at the side, waiting for their orders. Even the pouring of wine was done by someone else. Lin Muyu sat in the middle of Feng Jixing and Chu Huayin, very quiet. He was not very used to this kind of occasion, because the scene in front of him was proof of a saying, the bell rings and the cauldron eats. The life of the emperor's family was really too luxurious. Even if Lin Muyu was not the kind of guardian who helped the world, he still felt a little guilty eating these things. Come. Qin Jin raised his silver cup and said with a smile, My subjects, please drink this cup of wine. I wish that my subjects will be able to obtain a good ranking in the sword duel competition in the afternoon. Come. The emperor downed his cup in one gulp. Lin Muyu and the others did not dare to be negligent, and they all drank their cups one by one. Xiaoyin? Qin Jin looked at his precious daughter and signaled with his eyes. Qin Yin immediately stood up and raised her cup of wine. She smiled and said, Xiaoyin once again offers a toast to all of you. I wish that you all will obtain a good result. She was the future successor of the empire, and the 12 people present were all outstanding talents that the empire would have to rely on in the future. This was also the biggest reason why Qin Jin asked his daughter to offer a toast. In reality, Qin Jin was using this opportunity to groom his daughter into an important courtier in the future, and he had put in a lot of effort. After that, Qin Yin offered a toast to everyone. Everyone was overwhelmed by the favor, but when Qin Yin came in front of Lin Muyu, she smiled mischievously and said, Brother Yu, don't drink so much. Lin Muyu looked at her flushed face in annoyance and said, You're the one who should drink less. Look at you, you're already a little drunk. Qin Yin giggled, and her bright red face was like the sunset glow. She was indescribably beautiful. She smiled and said, I'm fine, but you can't get drunk. Otherwise, you'll lose the sword duel tournament in the afternoon. Don't worry, I'll give it my all. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Yeah, Xiaoyin wishes that Brother Yu takes first place in advance. Qin Yin refilled her cup again and said with a smile, Come, Brother Yu, why don't you accompany Xiaoyin for another drink? Yeah. Lin Muyu drank another cup. This action, however, caused Yuan Lian and the other disciples of the aristocratic families to be resentful and unhappy. Qin Yin offered a toast to everyone, but she only drank one more cup with Lin Muyu. She even sat on the ground and chatted happily with him. This kind of affection made them extremely jealous, but they had nothing to say. After all, everyone knew that Lin Muyu was the emperor's godson. It was only natural for him to be so intimate with Qin Yin. In the afternoon, Qin Yin was already tipsy. Her little face was flushed as she sat on the viewing platform. She looked at the practice platform from afar and waited for the next round of sparring. There were only 12 people left. It could be said that all of them were fierce tigers. However, the grouping was a little strange. The 12 people were actually divided into 2 groups of 16 to determine the top 8. However, this also meant that 4 people would have no fights. Very quickly, the grouping was decided. Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin, and Feng Jixing were all lucky to have no fights. Feng Jixing was so happy that he didn't have to fight and directly advanced to the top 8. Lin Muyu was also very happy. It was best that they didn't have to fight. They could conserve their strength. The consumption of battle qi in the morning was already very serious. Their next opponents were all experts, so they had to give it their all. The 4 matches ended very quickly. The 2 brothers, Qin Lei and Qin Yan, won smoothly. In addition, Yuan Lian, Lin Changqing, and Murong Zhou also advanced to the top 8. At this point, there were only 8 names left on the gilded wooden board of the sword contest tournament. They were Feng Jixing, Chu Huayin, Qin Lei, Qin Yan, Lin Muyu, Yuan Lian, Lin Changqing, and Murong Zhou. Lin Changqing and Murong Zhou were all generals of the empire's provinces. They had fought hard in the army when they were young. After so many years, their cultivation had improved, so they also qualified to participate in the sword contest tournament. Very quickly, the eunuch quickly listed the matchups of the top 8, Feng Jixing versus Lin Changqing, Yuan Lian versus Qin Lei, Lin Muyu versus Qin Yan, Murong Zhou versus Chu Huayin. I actually met Big Brother Lin Muyu. Qin Yan revealed a dispirited expression and said, "How can I be his match? Sigh, I thought that I could meet Lin Changqing or Yuan Lian. At least I could get into the top 4. Qin Lei smiled and said, Yan, it's already not easy for you to enter the top 8. After all, you are only 18 years old. Everyone here is older than you. Think about it, if you were to cultivate for another 7 to 8 years, who among us would still be your match?" Qin Yan, on the other hand, was delighted. Big Brother is right. This kid really didn't know how to be humble at all. The first match, Feng Jixing versus Lin Changqing. Both of them were experts who used the saber. Furthermore, they were also commanders of a region. They had struggled in the army for many years and refined a set of saber arts for killing. It was just that Feng Jixing's saber arts were more skilled and overbearing. Furthermore, his own cultivation also surpassed Lin Changqing's. Hence, after several dozen rounds, Lin Changqing abandoned his saber and admitted defeat. The second match, Yuan Lian versus Qin Lei. The son of the country protecting General Yuan Xie faced off against the eldest son of Prince Yuning. But the disparity in strength between the two was too great. In less than 10 rounds, Yuan Lian sustained injuries and was defeated. The might of Qin Lei's 7-layered god-binding shackles was too tyrannical. Yuan Lian practically adopted defensive tactics from the start of the battle, but he continued to defend until the end of his defeat. The third match, Lin Muyu versus Qin Yan. Even though they were opponents, the relationship between the two was pretty good. Lin Muyu wielded the dragon spirit sword, while Qin Yan wielded the fire serpent spear. The two of them stepped onto the high platform side by side, immediately causing a wave of cheers. Due to Lin Muyu's identity as the emperor's adopted son, he seemed to have already nurtured quite a number of female fans. On the viewing platform, there were at least a dozen or so noble girls waving their delicate arms and shouting, "Lord Lin Muyu, do your best." Pa. Tang Xiaoxi's teacup landed heavily on the table. Her face was unhappy, and her beautiful eyes carried disdain as she said, "Humph, so what if these girls know Mu? To actually cheer for Mu like this. So infuriating," Qin Yin giggled. "Xiao Shi is so petty, Tang Xiaoxi pouted her small mouth, but was unwilling to admit that she was petty. Her twin peaks rose and fell angrily as she said, "Xiao Yin is also bullying me. Don't tell me you're happy that those girls are cheering for Mu." Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were like water. She shook her head and said with a smile, "No, I'll be very happy if they cheer for Big Brother Yu. But after I ascend the throne, I'll cut the salary of their fathers by 30%. Tang Xiaoxi's face was full of respect. As expected of Xiao Yin. Chapter 198. Clang! Under the violent collision of the dragon spirit sword, Qin Yan almost couldn't hold on to the fire serpent spear. However, he was also considered to have outstanding talent and actually rolled out smoothly. The fire serpent spear transformed into a fire serpent that swallowed towards Lin Muyu's legs. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. He quickly turned and retreated a few steps, stabbing the long sword into the ground with one hand. With a loud shout, he summoned the wall of the bottle gourd. The black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall rose from the ground, directly dispersing Qin Yan's attack. Stepping forward, Lin Muyu quickly slashed out 3 times, causing Qin Yan to continuously retreat. The dragon scale armor on his body also rapidly dissipated. After fighting for over 30 rounds, the speed at which Qin Yan's battle chi increased was already far inferior to Lin Muyu's. Hence, he didn't delay any longer and straightforwardly stabbed the fire serpent spear into the ground. He cupped his fists and said, "Big brother Lin Muyu, I admit defeat. You haven't even used that mysterious power and can already defeat A Yen. Thanks for letting me win, A Yen." Lin Muyu also cupped his fists and smiled. The mysterious power that Qin Yan spoke of was actually the 7 planets' profound energy. Many people knew that Lin Muyu possessed a mysterious martial art, but no one knew what it was called. Hence, it caused him to become increasingly mysterious. Advanced to the semi-finals. Carrying the dragon spirit sword, Qin Yan walked down the stage shoulder to shoulder with Qin Yan. Looking at his fire serpent spear, it was already filled with densely packed tiny cuts. He couldn't help but say with heartache, "What sword did big brother Lin Muyu use? It's so domineering, it actually chipped my fire serpent spear." This fire serpent spear is a profound grade 2 treasure. Royal father specially found this weapon for me from the western regions. No problem, just find a blacksmith to repair it. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and consoled. All right. Qin Yan was still somewhat desolate. After all, he was a competitive young man. Especially in such a grand competition like the Sword Duel Assembly, it was truly a pity to lose. At this moment, Chu Huaimian stood up. His body swayed slightly and he frowned, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Old Chu, can you still fight?" Feng Jixing said worriedly, "Your injuries are a little heavy." "It's already bandaged." Chu Huaiying gritted his teeth and said, "It's all right. I've prepared for so long for the Sword Duel Conference. I must go up and defeat Murong Zhou. I'll make him laugh at my Imperial Guard for having no one else." All right then. Murong Zhou, 34 years old this year, was the captaincy of the border garrison of Heaven's Pivot Province and the general of the North. He was well versed in spear techniques and was known as the spear god of Heaven's Pivot Province. It was said that he was invincible when it came to riding on horseback. He once defeated 7 northern desert generals in a row, forging a lifetime of glory for him. It seemed that because of these experiences, Murong Zhou became arrogant. He even declared that he would challenge the Imperial Guards in the capital city one by one to see if there was anyone in the capital city who could be his match. Furthermore, Murong Zhou was very talented. Before he was 40, he had already reached Heaven Realm's 2nd heaven. He had reached Heaven Realm's 2nd heaven half a year earlier than Chu Huayin. Chu Huayin stepped onto the martial arts arena step by step. His footsteps were slightly serious. He was indeed heavily injured, but he couldn't lose his dignity as the commander of the Dragon Guards. He held onto his long sword and stood majestically in the wind. He looked like an inviolable divine statue. Murong Zhou held an iron spear in his hand. He raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Chu Huayin, you have proven that you are a very strong person by fighting Xan Fong. However, Murong Zhou, am not willing to bully someone who is injured. I think you should just admit defeat. It's not embarrassing to lose to me, Murong Zhou. Otherwise, after you're injured, your skills will be greatly reduced. Do you think you can defeat me?" Chu Huayin's smile was very bright. The premise of an unfair victory is to be able to win. "Do you think you can defeat me? I heard that you really want to challenge the 2 commanders, Qin Lei and Feng Jixing. It just so happens that I have a nickname in the Imperial Guard called Touchstone. If you want to challenge the 2 commanders, then you have to defeat me first. Otherwise, you don't have the right to challenge them." "Is that so? In that case, I'll accept your invitation." Just as he finished speaking, Murong Zhou's iron spear suddenly stabbed towards him. Chu Huayin hurriedly raised his long sword to block it. However, Murong Zhou's spear had a soft force. The tip of the spear tilted slightly, causing a flower of blood to bloom on Chu Huayin's shoulder. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The power of the collision caused Chu Huayin to retreat several steps. He quickly abandoned his long sword and turned his palms into fingers. Rays of starlight surrounded him. Just as Murong Zhou approached him with his iron spear, Chu Huayin raised his hand and pointed. His battle energy turned into starlight and shot towards Murong Zhou's forehead. Ha! Murong Zhou was stunned for a moment, and the chi armor between his eyebrows had already been shattered. He hurriedly flipped over and fell to the ground to avoid the second and third attacks. Chu Huaying's star-plucking finger left deep holes on the stone floor. It was evident that Chu Huaying's battle energy was very strong. You've gone too far. Murong Zhou rolled and crawled in a sorry state. Finally, he found an opportunity to jump up and sweep his spear towards Chu Huayin's calf. However, Murong Zhou didn't expect Chu Huayin to be so desperate. He forcefully condensed his battle energy and rooted his calf's center of gravity on the ground. With a bang, he was hit by the spearhead, causing blood to flow out. However, Chu Huayin used the opportunity to injure his calf, and his fingers moved like butterflies. Countless starlight condensed from battle energy fell down and directly destroyed Murong Zhou's battle energy armor. In the blink of an eye, Murong Zhou was already covered in injuries. Fortunately, Chu Huayin only used 30% of his strength. Otherwise, this round of star-plucking finger would have been enough to kill Murong Zhou on the spot. Murong Zhou, who was covered in blood, slowly stood up. Just as he was about to attack with his iron spear, he saw Chu Huayin's palm facing him. Chu Huayin didn't move an inch. A bright moon appeared in the air. The moon-print palm could take his life at any moment. I admit defeat. Murong Zhou was dejected. If he didn't admit defeat, he would have to pay with his life. Chu Huayin was already determined to get into the top 4. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing hurried forward and helped the injured Chu Huayin off the stage. Chu Huayin felt a wave of nausea and dizziness. When he looked into the distance, he realized that Zhenxiang's seat was already empty. He couldn't help but feel lonely. Old Chu, you idiot. Do you want to die? Feng Jixing said in a low voice. Chu Huayin smiled and said, His Majesty promised that the top 4 of the sword duel tournament would receive the title of a second-class noble. Our Chu clan is a commoner. I must change the situation so that Yao won't be looked down upon by anyone in the future. Idiot. Feng Jixing said indifferently. Lin Muyu supported Chu Huayin's shoulder and said, Quickly apply the medicine. Otherwise, your leg might be crippled. Murong Zhou didn't hold back at all. Okay. Immediately, she sat at the side of the stage and took off Chu Huayin's combat boots. His leg was already bruised and bloody. Lin Muyu hurriedly took out some medicine and personally applied it on Chu Huayin. At this point, the top 4 of the sword duel tournament had already been decided. They were Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei, and Chu Huayin. They were also the 4 brothers who were the closest to each other. Soon, the eunuch announced the final lineup, Lin Muyu versus Qin Lei, Feng Jixing versus Chu Huayin. Finally, the 4 brothers were going to fight it out. Chu Huayin lay on the cold stone steps and looked at the sky. He smiled and said, This year's sword duel tournament is really brilliant. It's probably the most tragic one in the history of the sword duel tournament. Qin Lei said, It's also the most powerful one. The top 4 are all at level 2 of the Heaven Realm. Such a lineup, the Empire hasn't seen such a thing in hundreds of years. Otherwise, His Majesty wouldn't be so happy. Chu Huayin tilted his head and looked at Feng Jixing. He said, Brother Feng, you got lucky this time. I'm all in the final battle, and I really don't have the strength to fight anymore. Feng Jixing said happily, Doesn't this mean that I, Feng, have directly advanced to the competition for first place? I'll definitely treat you to a drink later. I'll drink the best wine in Lanyan City. Thanks. Then, the top 4 competition became the battle between Qin Lei and Lin Muyu. Qin Lei propped the thunder cutter blade on the ground and said with a smile, It's our turn. Should we go all out or hold back? Lin Muyu smiled and said, Don't go all out, we can talk about it. All right then. Qin Lei was also a straightforward person. He patted Lin Muyu's shoulder and said with a smile, As the big brother, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry, once the victor is decided, I'll stop. The 2 of them went up the stage together. Qin Lei slowly swung his long blade and said with a smile, Why don't we decide the victor in one move? How about it? We'll use our strongest move. Whoever wins and who loses will be decided in an instant. This will save us from fighting for too long and exhausting too much battle chi, and giving Feng Jixing, this old fellow, an advantage. I don't want to see him take the Lulong talisman without even fighting a battle. This way, the Imperial Guards will have too much of an advantage. All right. Lin Muyu nodded and said with a smile, then let's decide the victor in one move. All right. The people below the stage could not hear what the people on the stage were saying, but they could see that Lin Muyu and Qin Yan's expressions suddenly became solemn. Furthermore, the battle chi on the two's body rapidly rose, giving people a feeling of almost suffocation. Put. Qin Lei raised the lightning split saber horizontally. Bolts of lightning descended from the sky, encircling his surroundings. The lightning split saber even trembled slightly. At the same time, 6 golden god binding chains encircled his body. Vigorous battle chi continuously spread in all directions, forming an extremely powerful storm that was currently attacking in all directions. Even furious lightning descended from the sky, causing the sky to dim. In an instant, it was as if day had turned into night. Only the flickering light of lightning continuously illuminated the people near the viewing platform. My God! Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful face lost all color as she said, "Is Big Brother Qin Lei going to risk his life? He wouldn't be thinking of killing you, right?" Qin Yin's pair of elegant eyes also revealed worry. "I believe that Big Brother Qin Lei will know what to do." Everyone on the viewing platform was already dumbstruck. The starting stance of Qin Lei's move was really too shocking. It was as if he wanted to borrow the might of the heavens to defeat Lin Muyu. On the contrary, Lin Muyu was extremely calm. The golden gourd in her hand slowly rotated, and in the blink of an eye, it became bigger, enveloping her entire body. The dragon spirit sword was unsheathed, and with a shout, a golden light soared into the sky, directly piercing through the dark clouds that Qin Lei had condensed. A ray of heavenly light landed on Lin Muyu's body. The long sword left her hand, and the dragon spirit sword rapidly rotated, bringing with it streams of true dragon essence fire. Not only that, Lin Muyu even opened her left hand. Streams of blood-colored demonic energy danced wildly in her palm, quickly seeping into the blade. This strike carried the profound energy of the 2 glorious demonic dance. Lin Muyu didn't dare to use the 4th glorious dance, because there was no need. If the 2nd glorious dance couldn't defeat Qin Lei, then it could only mean that she wasn't fated to obtain the Gilded Dragon Talisman. And compared to the Gilded Dragon Talisman, Qin Lei's life was obviously more important. Chapter 199. Compared to Qin Lei's lightning that wreaked havoc, Lin Muyu's aura was clearly much gentler. The golden gourd represented the power of life, giving people a sense of peace. However, the demonic power that spread on the blade allowed people to feel the hidden tyranny and forcefulness of Lin Muyu's attack. The two of them were risking their lives right from the start. This made people look forward to the final result even more. On the viewing platform, the noble ladies were sipping tea as they discussed spiritedly, "Wow, Sir Qin Lei is indeed worthy of being the commander of the Imperial Army. This kind of aura is too frightening. I'm afraid that Sir Lin Muyu is going to lose." "No, Sir Lin Muyu will not lose." "Why?" "Because Sir Lin Muyu looks much better than Sir Qin Lei." "Pfft, shameless." "Stupid girl, haven't you been staring at Sir Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, and Feng Jixing?" I haven't." "Then why did you see Sir Lin Muyu's appearance just now?" Her breathing was hurried, her face was flushed, and she kept pulling at her clothes at the front of her chest. I'm going to kill you to silence you, stupid girl." On the practice platform, the hard stone slabs were actually peeling off and rising due to the collision of power. It was as if they were going against the law of gravity. Bits of stone and dust were constantly flying up due to the collision of power between Lin Muyu and Qin Lei. However, it was in line with the physical phenomenon of the airflow rotating due to thermal expansion and contraction. Lightning constantly flickered, and the thunder split blade was burned red by the lightning. It had already reached its peak state. Qin Lei's eyes were burning with battle intent. He laughed loudly and said, "You, try the sixth attack of Big Brother's thunder split blade technique." As he spoke, Qin Lei shouted, "Raging thunder rips the heavens." Buzz. The thunder cutter blades seemed to have already transformed into countless streaks of lightning. The one in front of them was definitely not a single thunder cutter blade. Qin Lei's overwhelming attack had actually blasted out tens of thousands of thunder cutter blades. A cold glint flashed across Lin Muyu's eyes. She abruptly clasped her palms together and gathered all the fighting energy in her body. The dragon serpent sword soul let out an angry roar and circled around the blade of the dragon soul sword. The dragon serpent sword's soul charged towards the thunder splitter sword with a high-speed spiral of flames. Boom! The two divine weapons collided together, and the sounds of energy explosions rang out incessantly. The dragon spirit sword spun and charged forward, directly shattering the energy of the first lightning split blade. Following that, the second, the third, and so on, it kept on charging forward. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu spread out his arms from afar, with flames lingering around his palms. He controlled the dragon spirit sword to charge forward from a distance. The strong wind blew his cloak, causing it to flutter. He narrowed his eyes, not giving in the slightest to Qin Lei's attack. "Awesome!" Qin Lei roared as he continued to urge his fighting energy. The sky-rending raging lightning crazily surged. Lin Muyu could not retreat, or else his body would be torn into pieces in an instant. He did not believe that Qin Lei, this battle maniac, had the ability to hold back at the crucial moment. Therefore, he could only win this battle and not lose. The seven luminaries' profound energy was circulating crazily. When the dragon spirit sword smashed close to 100 thunder splitter sword's sharp beams, its power actually showed some signs of being exhausted. However, Qin Lei's sky-rending raging lightning was still wreaking havoc. The arrow was already on the bowstring and had no choice but to be released. Again, with a light spread of his palms, the third luminary's profound energy crazily surged out of his body. One after another, the celestial bodies of living beings condensed on the martial arts practice stage. Under Lin Muyu's summon, they all attached themselves to the dragon spirit sword from afar. Immediately, the golden light exploded. The dragon spirit sword received the addition of new energy as it rapidly charged towards Qin Lei, directly shattering the energy of dozens of thunder splitter sword. Lin Muyu exerted all of his strength to control the dragon spirit sword through the air. His complexion became rather pale as he secretly prayed, "Big brother Qin Lei, hurry up and lose. Don't force me to use the fourth luminaries. The fourth luminaries are too strong. If I use it, even I would be afraid." Finally, Qin Lei, who was on the martial arts practice stage, suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood with a pft sound. He could not hold on any longer. The 6 god-binding chains on the surface of his body began to scatter one after another, and the radiance of the thunder splitter sword also gradually dimmed. Buzz buzz. The dragon spirit sword charged straight towards Qin Lei's chest without stopping. Just as it was about to pierce through, Lin Muyu suddenly retracted his hand. Immediately, as if it had a mind of its own, the long sword made a somersault in the air and stabbed onto the stone slab in front of Lin Muyu. "Gee?" Qin Lei gasped for breath. While wiping the fresh blood from the corner of his mouth, he raised his head to look at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, "Satisfying, satisfying. You, just where did this strange strength come from? The 6th strike of my thunder splitter sword technique is extremely tyrannical. I'm confident that even Feng Jixing might not be able to dissolve it unscathed. You, brat, actually forcefully broke through this move of mine. You're really not simple." Lin Muyu's complexion was also pale as she slowly held onto the sword hilt. Her body swayed as she said with a smile, "I've already used all of my strength. If I couldn't receive this move, I'm afraid that I would have been hacked to death by Big Brother Qin Lei." Qin Lei laughed loudly, "I've lost. You go fight for first place with Feng Jixing. Many thanks to Big Brother Qin Lei for letting me win. Pa, I didn't go easy on you." Do you think that I don't want the dragon talisman? Qin Lei wiped the corner of his mouth again and said with a smile, my imperial army only has 7,000 people. If I had the dragon talisman, I would mobilize troops from Cangnan province and expand the imperial army to 17,000 people. Lin Muyu walked forward and held onto Qin Lei's arm. She said with a smile, 7,000 people is already enough. Any more would just be eating rations for free. That's true. At this time, a eunuch walked onto the uneven martial arts practice stage and said loudly, Lin Muyu wins. Lord Qin Lei and Lord Chu Huaying are tied for 3rd and 4th place in this sword duel assembly. Next, Lord Feng Jixing and Lord Lin Muyu will fight for 1st place in this sword duel assembly. Thunderous applause sounded. Everyone was finally going to see a pinnacle showdown. Feng Jixing, the man who was known as the Tiger of Tong Tian Street, and Lin Muyu, the peerless genius of the divine temple that was rarely seen in 100 years. One was the commander of the imperial army and had guarded the imperial capital for almost 7 years. The other had saved Her Highness Qin Yin's life twice with wisdom and bravery. Moreover, he had cultivated a 10th-grade green gourd martial spirit to such a level that it could actually surpass the 1st-grade god-binding shackles. How powerful was this? The showdown between these two people was most likely what everyone expected. At this time, Qin Yin suddenly stood up and said respectfully, Imperial Father, Big Brother Yu has been fighting hard and has consumed a lot of his battle qi and stamina. On the other hand, General Feng has been resting for so long. If we were to fight now, it would be a little unfair to Big Brother Yu. I suggest that we give Big Brother Yu some time to rest. After 2 hours, we will let General Feng and Big Brother Yu have a showdown. Qin Jin happily nodded his head and smiled. Xiao Yin is right. I approve it. The showdown between the two of them will be held 2 hours later. Thank you, Imperial Father. From afar, Lin Muyu also cast a grateful look at Qin Yin. As for Qin Jin, when he saw that Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, and Qin Lei were in the top 4, he heaved a sigh of relief. No matter which family the dragon talisman ended up in, these 4 people were all on his side. Lin Chongqing and Murong Zhou might not be loyal to him. Lin Muyu calmly sat on the stone steps and continuously circulated the forging dragon bone remnant scroll to calm the surging battle qi in her body. She had consumed a lot of energy in the head-on fight with Qin Lei. If she were to fight now, she might not be a match for Feng Jixing at his peak. After all, Feng Jixing's self-created wind blade technique was extremely domineering. Even at her peak, she might not be able to deal with it, let alone in a situation where she had consumed a lot of battle qi. Feng Jixing hugged his wind cutter blade and sat beside Lin Muyu with a smile. He said, if you admit defeat, Big Brother Feng will treat you to a month's worth of beef and flour buns. How about it? Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. Don't give me that. I won't fall for it. Feng Jixing smiled and said, what do you think of Her Highness Yin's appearance? Is she number 1 in the world? Lin Muyu's heart wavered slightly, but she knew that it was Feng Jixing's trick. She calmed her heart and said, Her Highness' appearance is still okay. Still not falling for it? Feng Jixing grinned and said, if you were to choose, who would you marry? Her Highness Qin Yin, Princess Shi, and the beauty Chu Yao, who would you choose? Lin Muyu glanced at him and said, Don't give me that, I won't choose any of them. Really? That's a pity. Feng Jixing whistled and lay down on the stone steps beside Lin Muyu. He didn't look like a commander of the imperial army at all. Instead, he looked more like a hoodlum. He lowered his voice and laughed. I think you should marry both Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. One will be the elder, and the other will be the younger. What do you think? Lin Muyu finally laughed and stopped circulating her energy. She said, Big Brother Feng, you're so scheming. Ahem, is the first place of this sword duel tournament really that important to you? Of course it's important. Feng Jixing revealed his true colors. The first place will receive a reward of 100,000 Jin Yin coins. The second place will only receive 30,000 Jin Yin coins. It's not even enough to buy a big house in the capital. Chu Huayin, who was cultivating to heal his injuries, opened his eyes and asked, What do you want a big house for? How can I marry without a big house? Feng Jixing's eyes widened. You don't have a wife. Chu Huayin laughed. Feng Jixing pulled out his wind cutter and raised his eyebrows. Chu Huayin, don't say anything else. Fight me one-on-one if you're a man. Chu Huayin grinned and continued to cultivate to heal his injuries. He said, You don't fall for his trick. 3 years ago, in order to get first place in the sword competition, this guy actually invited me to drink wine the day before. He said he wanted to drink rice wine, but in the end, it was all strong alcohol. He even found a few girls from Spring Fragrance Brothel to drink with him. I was defeated by him after I was drunk. How disgraceful. Lin Mu held back her laughter. Since that's the case, I definitely can't lose to Brother Feng. I also want a big house and a wife. Feng Jixing held back his laughter. It's really unfortunate to know you guys. Chu Huayin pouted. If those girls in the capital knew that you, Feng Jixing, are like this, I'd like to see if they would still be interested in you. Lin Muyu secretly laughed but didn't say anything. 2 hours passed quickly. It was time for the competition. Lin Muyu silently circulated her battle energy and found that it had recovered to 90%. She could almost fight with Feng Jixing now. Chapter 200. Prepare to start the duel. Qin Jin stood up, brushed the sleeves of his dragon robe, and said in a dignified manner, Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, I hope that the two of you will adhere to the principle of fair competition and decide the victor. Both of you are the Empire's outstanding talents. Stop when necessary and don't hurt each other, understand? Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu stood on the martial arts practice stage and gave a military salute to the Emperor at the same time, saying in a deep voice, This general understands. Actually, they understood in their hearts that all of them were martial cultivators, and every single one of them had a heart that was unwilling to admit defeat. Since they were standing on the final martial arts practice stage, then they would surely go all out to determine the victor. Feng Jixing needed this victory in the sword duel tournament to prove his strength as the commander of the imperial army. Lin Muyu also needed a big victory like this to prove her worth in this world, so no one would go easy on her, but they definitely wouldn't fight with their lives on the line like Qin Lei. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing were both intelligent people, and they respected each other like brothers, so naturally they wouldn't have any killing intent during the duel. Clang! The dragon spirit sword was unsheathed, and the sword's cry was incessant. The dragon serpent sword spirit, which was close to a true dragon, coiled around the long sword, and this was the symbol of a sacred beast's soul lattice. Holding the long sword horizontally, Lin Muyu didn't move, and had the demeanor of a great swordsman. Feng Jixing unhurriedly pulled out the wind cutter, and said with a smile, You, in terms of weapons, you have the upper hand. This dragon spirit sword is a sacred rank, but my wind cutter is only a profound rank. It's too disadvantageous. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Big brother Feng, just swallow this grievance. If worst comes to worst, I'll think of a way to help you reforge your wind cutter saber after the sword duel tournament. I'll raise your wind cutter saber's soul to the saint rank. However, you can't tell anyone about this, or else I'll be in big trouble. Feng Jixing lowered his voice and laughed. You brat, you are indeed well versed in the art of forging weapons. I knew it. All right, it's a deal. As long as you can reforge the wind cutter saber into a saint rank weapon, it doesn't matter even if Big Brother Feng loses this sword duel. Come, you, let's do our best and not leave any regrets. Feng Jixing shouted. The purple electric flame wolf roared incessantly. Bolts of lightning gathered on the saber. In the next moment, it raised the saber and rushed over. An extraordinary saber swept out, Desert Gale. Lin Muyu was already familiar with this move. She stomped on the ground with her combat boots, and the pale golden wall of the gourd appeared. It was very beautiful, and the dragon spirit sword shook slightly, bringing along the purple lightning to meet the attack. Ding! Sparks flew, and no one gained any advantage in this exchange. Both of them swayed on the spot. Feng Jixing was secretly stunned. He did not expect Lin Muyu's advancement to be so rapid. When they first met in the dragon-seeking forest, Feng Jixing was able to completely crush him in terms of strength. This kid was indeed a rare talent that only appeared once in 100 years. Thinking of this, Feng Jixing was inexplicably excited. To have such a rare genius as an opponent, wasn't this a kind of fortune for cultivators? Flame! Feng Jixing suddenly lowered his head, and the purple electric flame wolf on his shoulder quickly opened its mouth. Voila! A scarlet flame shot out. It was a martial soul skill. Naturally, Lin Muyu didn't dare to be negligent. She quickly strengthened the dragon scale wall, and the golden wall of the gourd blocked this attack. Amidst the surging flames, her aura was slightly chaotic. Feng Jixing's cultivation was extraordinary, and the power of his martial soul skill was naturally imaginable. Just when the gourd wall blocked this attack, Feng Jixing suddenly rushed over in the flames. Scarlet hot sand lingered around his saber, and a fierce horizontal slash landed on the wall of the gourd. Hot sand gold. Dang! The gourd wall quickly collapsed by half. This attack of Feng Jixing was really powerful, but Lin Muyu was not inferior. His body spun, and he quickly used the falling star step to catch up with Feng Jixing. The dragon spirit sword whistled, and 3 consecutive slashes slashed at Feng Jixing's back. Good boy, Feng Jixing's heart shook. He didn't think that Lin Muyu's movement skill would be so good. He was already fast enough, but he couldn't catch up to Lin Muyu's speed at all. Falling star step, as the name suggested, was fast. Naturally, it wasn't something that Feng Jixing could compare with. Slashing the wind cutter horizontally, dang dang dang, blocked 3 consecutive slashes from Lin Muyu, but at this moment, Lin Muyu's hand pressed on the hilt of the sword. A bunch of gourd vines quickly rose from the blade, and quickly wrapped around the wind cutter saber. Taking advantage of the momentum, the vines lifted the wind cutter saber up. What? Feng Jixing was stunned. Just when the saber was about to fly out of his hand, he saw Lin Muyu suddenly raise his right leg, and a stream of true dragon elemental fire lingered around his leg, and he brazenly kicked. Feng Jixing was not a person who was afraid of trouble. He immediately jumped up with the saber, and his knee hit Lin Muyu's combat boots. Peng! The cyclone flowed back. Feng Jixing took advantage of the situation, and cleverly grabbed the wind cutter saber and twisted it with all his strength. Suddenly, the gourd vines scattered, and in this way, Lin Muyu's determined attack was actually perfectly resolved. Lin Muyu secretly admired Feng Jixing's ability to adapt in a battle. At this moment, Feng Jixing clenched the saber, and his body was covered with wind blades. He directly swung the violent saber storm, the third style of the wind-walking saber technique. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The sky was filled with wind blades, and Lin Muyu hurriedly retreated a few steps. She summoned the wall of the gourd again and adopted a defensive strategy. At the same time, she closed her eyes and released her spirit meridian technique. She locked onto Feng Jixing's position and raised her hand to launch a demonic sound fist. Bam! The demonic sound fist smashed into Feng Jixing's battle armor, but the violent saber storm continued to wreak havoc, violently crashing into the wall of the gourd. Lin Muyu's battle chi was constantly being consumed, and she was beginning to feel that her battle chi was about to run out. What was even worse was that Feng Jixing's figure appeared in the midst of the raging winds. Purple lightning lingered around his wind cutter saber, and the sky darkened. It was as if all the light in the sky had been absorbed by the purple electric flame wolf. Feng Jixing leaped high into the air and suddenly slashed down with his violent thunder saber. I have to block it. Lin Muyu abruptly injected a powerful burst of 7 luminaries' profound energy into her arms. She gripped her sword with both hands and leaped into the air. One celestial body after another appeared around her, and her sword contained the power of the first luminaries as it met the violent thunder saber head-on. Bam! Almost no one could be seen on the drill ground anymore. Everyone could only see the whistling sound of battle chi colliding with each other. The collision directly formed a violent shockwave that swept across the entire observation platform, and many people had already covered their eyes. Buzz buzz! Qin Yin stood in front of her father, and golden god-binding chains slowly appeared around her to block the storm and the rubble. Tang Xiaoxi also summoned her fire fox to block the storm with the power of fire. Chu Chu narrowed his eyes, and he remained calm and collected. The light of a fire cauldron appeared around him, and the storm and rubble naturally couldn't harm him in the slightest. Tang Xiaoxi stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, "Commander Feng Jixing and Mumu, these two fellows are simply like two monsters. They're a little too ridiculously strong, right?" Chu Chu smiled. "Just as Princess," she said, "Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu are both rare geniuses that only appear once in 1,000 years. As long as they have enough time, their strength will be unfathomable." Qin Jin narrowed his eyes and asked, "Chu, what do you think of these two people?" Chu Chu stroked his white beard and smiled. If this old man may be so bold to say, the future of the empire will probably be closely related to these two people. "Your Majesty, if we use these two people well, they can bring peace to our great Qin. If we don't use them well, I'm afraid that these two people will become ambitious and ruthless people in this chaotic world." Qin Jin was startled. "Commander Feng Jixing can be said to be loyal and devoted to me. He won't become an ambitious and ruthless person in this chaotic world, right?" Chu Chu laughed. "Your Majesty, you're worrying too much. Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu are both like unpolished jade. Feng Jixing is loyal and courageous, while Lin Muyu is even more sincere. As long as Your Majesty doesn't betray these two people, they will definitely not betray Your Majesty. If we use these two people well, Great Qin will be able to last for another 1,000 years." Qin Jin felt relieved. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you for your teachings, Chu." Chu Chu also cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, you're too kind. There's no need to be so polite. Otherwise, this old man will tremble in fear and not dare to speak again." Qin Jin smiled faintly. "Elder Chu, you're being too polite. How about this? If Elder Chu doesn't mind, you can stay in Zetian Palace for a long time. I'll make you the princess's grand tutor, and you'll be in charge of teaching little Yin's cultivation, virtue, and ability." Chu Chu was stunned. "Your Majesty, this," Qin Yin hurriedly said with a smile. "Chu, you've taught Xiao Shi and you before. Why can't you teach Xiao Yin as well?" "All right then," Chu Chu said respectfully, "then this old man will do as you say." "Thank you, Chu." Qin Yin was overjoyed. Her beautiful face was filled with excitement. In reality, no one knew what she was thinking. Once she acknowledged Chu Chu as her master, it would mean that she and Lin Muyu were not only sworn siblings, they would also be fellow disciples. It seemed like their relationship had deepened to another level. At this time, the battle on the training platform had reached its climax. Feng Jixing activated his power, and the purple electric flame wolf's head constellation appeared on his saber. Raging flames surged as he unleashed a secret technique called Howling Wolf Saber Fire. Lin Muyu had also raised her power to the second element, and she unleashed a combination of Thunderclap Frenzy plus 2 Luminaries Demonic Dance. Clang! The Windcutter saber trembled violently, and the Dragon Spirit sword also trembled slightly. The two's power just so happened to reach an equilibrium, but right at this moment, a smile suddenly appeared on Feng Jixing's face. You've lost." "Ah." Lin Muyu was stunned, but she was caught off guard by the sudden appearance of a hand on Feng Jixing's shoulder. No, it wasn't a hand, but the purple electric flame wolf's sharp claws. It was a giant claw filled with lightning and flames, and it was the purple electric flame wolf's martial soul's skill, Fiery Palm Pounce. Bang! The Fiery Palm Pounce landed heavily on Lin Muyu's shoulder, shattering her Do Chi armor. At the same time, the force of the blow sent her flying. The two had already collided in midair, and now Lin Muyu was sent flying by the force of the blow. She was already flying out of the edge of the training platform, and according to the rules, landing outside of the training platform would be considered a loss. What a good Feng Jixing, to have such a move up his sleeves. This competition was indeed full of schemes. Chapter 201. But just as Feng Jixing was rejoicing, Lin Muyu, who was in the air, suddenly opened her hand, and her martial soul extended out several gourd vines that quickly wrapped around one of the pillars of the martial arts stage. With a "so" sound, she pulled it back, and her whole body once again rushed up the martial arts stage. Pa! Lin Muyu stood firmly on her feet and smiled. Big brother Feng, don't be too happy just yet. Good lad, again. Feng Jixing laughed and suddenly raised his saber. A terrifying celestial demon constellation appeared behind him. It was the seventh form of the wind saber art, sky-devouring demonic saber. It was this move that defeated the successor of the Seven Seas Tang sect, Tang Bin. Now, Feng Jixing was using the same move. Lin Muyu let out a shout, and the power of the third element surged into her arms. The dragon spirit sword spun rapidly, and she used her peak combat technique to meet Feng Jixing's fierce move, 3 Luminaries Calamity plus True Dragon Essence Fire plus Helix Break. 1. Lin Muyu controlled the flaming longsword and rushed toward Feng Jixing's sky-devouring demonic saber. But this time, she only dared to use about 40% of the third element's power because she was afraid of injuring Feng Jixing. Of course, Lin Muyu didn't know that Feng Jixing didn't use his full strength either. He only used 50% of the sky-devouring demonic saber's power. Hong! The demonic saber covered in flames descended from the sky and clashed directly with Lin Muyu's longsword. The moment they clashed, they were actually equally matched. The two weapons were glued together, their battle chis restricting each other. It was a stalemate. At this moment, Lin Muyu opened her palm and said, "Big brother Feng, look here." Feng Jixing looked over. Whoosh! A dazzling ray of dawn bloomed in Lin Muyu's palm. It was the light of a small golden gourd. It was the green gourd's 7th level ability, Light of Dawn. My eyes! You brat! Feng Jixing hastily covered his eyes. This battle was full of schemes, and this time, it was Lin Muyu who schemed against Feng Jixing. However, just when Lin Muyu was secretly pleased with herself, Feng Jixing suddenly kicked his legs in the air, and 3 consecutive powerful kicks landed on the wall of the gourd. Everyone knew that Feng Jixing's saber technique was invincible, but no one knew that Feng Jixing's leg technique was also so fierce. Immediately, the power of the third brilliance and the heaven-devouring demonic blade exploded in the air. With the addition of the power from Feng Jixing's kick, the two of them quickly separated and landed on both sides of the training platform. While in the air, Lin Muyu wanted to summon the gourd vine, but she couldn't. The wall of the gourd was destroyed by Feng Jixing's unreasonable kick, and she couldn't summon any strength from her martial soul. Pa! Her battle boots landed on the ground, and she slid more than 10 meters away before she came to a stop. Lin Muyu raised her hand and grabbed the dragon spirit sword that was chasing after her. With a shocked expression, she said, "I lost just like that?" On the other side of the training platform, Feng Jixing also flipped in the air and landed on the ground. He stood firmly, rubbed his eyes, and looked up at the training platform. He said, This brat you is too crafty." My eyes. The scene was very quiet, and everyone who was watching the battle was also stunned. This was because Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing both landed on the ground at almost the same time, and no one could determine who won the finals of the sword duel tournament. The eunuch who announced the results stood there dumbfounded. In the end, he turned around and asked for help. "Your Majesty, the two of them landed on the ground at almost the same time. There's no way to determine the outcome. What should we do?" Chu Chu laughed heartily. "Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, come onto the stage and listen to His Majesty's announcement of the results." Qin Jin had a gratified expression on his face. He stood up and stroked his beard. He laughed heartily at Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu who were standing on the stage. This competition has really broadened my horizons. The strength of Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu has already been witnessed by everyone. With this result, the two of them are the champions of the sword duel tournament. As for the rewards, the dragon talisman and 200,000 Jin coins, the two of you can choose yourselves. Feng Jixing was stunned. He wanted the dragon talisman, but he also wanted the Jin coins. For a moment he was stuck in a dilemma. In the end, Lin Muyu was more straightforward. He didn't lack money, but he lacked an army. Thus, he cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, I choose the Dragon Talisman. I'll give the 200,000 Jin coins to Big Brother Feng. Feng Jisheng nodded in tacit agreement. Qin Jin laughed heartily and said, "All right, I hereby announce that the champions of this sword duel tournament are Lin Muyu and Feng Jisheng. The third and fourth places are Chu Huaying and Qin Lei. The rest of the contestants will also be rewarded accordingly. The final winner of the Dragon Talisman is Lin Muyu. Come forward to receive your reward." Lin Muyu and Feng Jisheng walked forward together. Qin Jin personally handed out the reward. A dragon-shaped golden dragon talisman was placed in an extremely exquisite box. Qin Jin lifted it up and carefully placed it in Lin Muyu's hands. He reminded her, You must use the dragon talisman carefully. Once you mobilize the army, it means that you are controlling it as the Empire's general. You must not kill indiscriminately or defy the Empire's laws. Do you understand?" Lin Muyu accepted the dragon talisman and nodded heavily. "Yes, Your Majesty." Qin Jin then took out a 200,000 gold note and handed it to Feng Jisheng. He said, "General Feng, as the commander of the Imperial Guards, you are responsible for the long-term stability of the Imperial capital. I hope that you will continue to give your all for the Empire in the future." Feng Jisheng nodded with a determined look in his eyes. "Your Majesty, this general understands." At this moment, Qin Yin pulled Tang Xiaoxi forward and stopped in front of Lin Muyu. She grinned and said, "Congratulations, big brother you. You actually managed to obtain the dragon talisman." Tang Xiaoxi giggled. "I told you Mu is as strong as a monster now. Obtaining the dragon talisman is as easy as pie." Lin Muyu blushed. "It's not as easy as you make it out to be. I was almost killed by Big Brother Feng's sword." Feng Jisheng rubbed his nose and said angrily, "Don't say that. I was almost pierced through the chest by your sword." At this moment, Qin Lei and Qin Yan walked over while supporting Chu Huaying. The others also approached them one by one, waiting for the emperor to reward them. Qin Yin smiled and said, "Father, didn't you want to give the top for a title?" It seemed like Qin Yin had always wanted to give Lin Muyu a title. Now, the opportunity had finally come. Qin Jin nodded lightly. He held the Desolation Sword, which symbolized his status as an emperor, and slowly stepped onto the pothole-filled martial arts arena. He exuded the majesty of an emperor as he said in a clear voice, "The Qin Empire is full of talented people. Today, during the sword competition, I can see that the Empire is full of talented people. With so many young heroes, our Qin Empire will definitely be strong for generations to come." As he spoke, he paused and said loudly, "I hereby appoint Feng Jisheng, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei, and Chu Huaying as the 4 generals of the wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. They will also be known as the 4 heroes of Lanyan. The title of the 4 heroes of Lanyan will accompany them for life. They will be second-class nobles in the Empire. I hope that the 4 of you will charge and break through enemy lines for the Qin Empire in the future and protect our territory." Lin Muyu, Feng Jisheng, and the others all cupped their fists in greeting. Second-class nobles. This was not a small title. In terms of nobility, Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Lei, Qin Yan, and the others were all first-class nobles. Second-class nobles were at least second-class nobles. Although it was only a title, from now on, no one would dare to think that Lin Muyu and Chu Huaying were commoners. Chu Huaying's face revealed a trace of gratification. The Chu family had been commoners for thousands of years. In his generation, there was finally a change. Wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. 4 heroes of Lanyan. Qin Yin softly repeated the name twice. She smiled and said, "It's really appropriate. Congratulations, brother Yu. From now on, you are one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan. You can finally be on the same level as General Feng and brother Qin Lei." Lin Muyu smiled in gratification. "Yes, I have to thank your majesty for this." As he spoke, he put away the dragon talisman and threw the precious token into his cosmos sack. Qin Jin continued to reward the contestants ranked 5th to 12th. Although these people did not have eye-catching titles like the 4 heroes of Lanyan, the rewards they received were still considerable. Those who held positions in the army had all been promoted by 1 rank. Otherwise, they would have received at least 10,000 Jianghu coins as a reward. That was not a small number. Congratulations, little Lin, you have finally become a noble. Chu Chu smiled and congratulated him. Lin Muyu pursed her lips. Chu, don't make fun of me. My small status as one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan is just a small trick in front of you. Oh right, Chu, are you really willing to be the princess tutor? I can't disobey your majesty's words. Chu Chu said helplessly. Originally, I, Chu Chu, had never accepted a disciple in my entire life. Ever since you came, I have been making an exception. Fine, it doesn't matter if I accept a well-behaved disciple like Her Highness Yin. Yes, Chu, you have worked hard. Beside him, Feng Jixing put his arm around Lin Muyu's shoulder and laughed. Shall we find a place to gather tonight? Sure, where? Listen to the rain tower, your treat. How about it? You have the dragon talisman, so you will be the biggest winner of this sword contest. Sure. Sure. Following that was another series of reward ceremonies. The rules of the royal family were very complicated, but Lin Muyu tried to accept it. Here, he was the closest to the sky and also the closest to the peak of this world. He had to be patient, otherwise, he would not be able to show off his skills in the future. The contest finally ended when the sun set. The supervisor of the Zetian Palace held a banquet in the main hall, but Qin Jin did not attend because he was too tired. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the rest of the 4 heroes of Lanyan did not attend either. They slipped out of the Zetian Palace under the cover of the night and went straight to the Listen to the Rain Tower. Both Her Highness Yin and Princess She did not come today, so we can drink to our heart's content. Qin Lei laughed. Chu Huayi nodded. The Zetian Palace has Chu's protection, so I believe there will not be any danger. It is rare for us to have this opportunity, so we must drink until we are drunk tonight. How about it? Sure. That night, they really drank until they were drunk, and they did not go home at all. For people wearing the armors of the Empire's senior generals left the Listen to the Rain Tower after they were drunk. It was early in the morning and the cold wind was blowing, but they did not seem to feel cold at all. They recited poems facing the moonlight. Qin Lei was a boorish man, so he did not know how to recite poems, but Chu Huayin and Feng Jixing were quite knowledgeable, so they recited some poems that were similar to Where Will We Wake Up Tonight? The willows are by the shore, the wind is at dawn, and the moon is waning. After that, the 4 of them were drunk by the hidden dragon lake of Lanyan City. In the early morning, a few ruffians walked over, and all of them were dumbfounded. Gosh, these people seem to be the experts of today's sword contest. They are known as the 4 heroes of Lanyan. Jiske, they are already drunk. Should we touch them? Touch, touch, touch. Therefore, when Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the rest woke up, all the Jianghu coins on them had been stolen. Fortunately, these ruffians did not dare to be too bold, and only took some Jianghu coins and silver coins. They did not even dare to touch Feng Jixing's gold notes. Otherwise, if the commander of the Imperial Guards was angry, it would be disastrous. Slapping his forehead, Feng Jixing woke up and said in annoyance, "Which bastard dared to steal the money pouch of the tiger of Tongtian Street?" Lin Muyu said, "My few hundred Jianghu coins were also stolen." Chu Huayin laughed. "Money is gone, and people are happy. I am so tired I am going back to sleep." "Go back, everyone. We will meet again next time." "Okay." Chapter 202. Back at the Eagle Nest camp, Lin Muyu continued to sleep until noon. Suddenly, she rode up the mountain and said respectfully, "Commander Lin, Princess She is seeing off her cousin, Tang Bin, at the north gate of Lanyan City. She asked if you would like to have a meal at the bun shop outside the city." "Got it. I'll be right there." "Yes." She got up. The feeling of being drunk was really uncomfortable. When she washed up, she used the spiritual pulse technique to drive away some of the tiredness. Then she put on her armor and rode down the mountain. Outside the north gate of Lanyan City, Tang Xiaoxi stood there holding her pony. Beside her was Tang Bin and dozens of guards who seemed to be waiting for Lin Muyu. Amidst the sound of hooves, Tang Xiaoxi looked at Lin Muyu coming down from the Eagle Nest Mountain and couldn't help but smile. Mu is here. Tang Bin frowned and didn't say anything. When Lin Muyu approached, she cupped her fists and smiled. Xiao Shi, young master Tang Bin. Tang Bin also cupped his fists and smiled. I didn't have time to congratulate Commander Lin yesterday. It shouldn't be too late to congratulate you today. Congratulations to Commander Lin for getting the Dragon Talisman. Lin Muyu was startled and smiled. Thank you, young master Tang Bin. Mu, I'm going to send my cousin 10 miles out of the city. Will you accompany me? There's a famous bun shop 10 miles north of Lanyan City. We'll have lunch there, Tang Xiaoxi said with a smile. Everyone got on their horses. Tang Bin seemed a little unhappy. Perhaps he was already unhappy when he saw Tang Xiaoxi being so intimate with Lin Muyu. 10 miles out of the city, there was indeed a bun shop in the distance. Almost all the traveling merchants would stop here to eat a steaming basket of beef buns in the cold winter. Tang Xiaoxi acted as the host and pulled Lin Muyu over. Then, Tang Bin sat opposite them, looking very serious. Brother, why are you so serious? Who bullied you? Tang Xiaoxi asked with a smile. Tang Bin couldn't help smiling. No one can bully your brother. I'm just relieved to see that you are so happy in Lanyan City, Xiao Shi. Is that so? No matter how I look at it, it doesn't look like he's at ease. Ha, Xiao Shi, you think too much. Tang Bin looked up at Lin Muyu's handsome appearance and couldn't help but frown. He asked, Xiao Shi, when did you meet Commander Lin? Oh, it was back in Kathaya City. What's wrong, brother? It's nothing. The buns are here. Eat them while they're hot. More. Look at you, you've lost weight. Hee hee, don't girls look better when they're thinner? You still have to be healthy. Come, do more. Lin Muyu could sense Tang Bin's hostility towards her, so she didn't say anything else. She just kept eating. After eating 2 baskets of buns, she felt inexplicably satisfied. Cultivators usually ate a lot. There was a law of balance between the heavens and the earth. The strength of cultivators came from their ability to absorb the spiritual energy of the world and convert their physical strength into fighting qi, true qi, and so on. Thus, the stronger Lin Muyu was, the more food she would need. It wasn't like the legends said that experts didn't need to eat at all. On the contrary, the stronger one was, the better their appetite would be. Commander Lin. Tang Bin looked at Lin Muyu again. He seemed to want to say something but stopped himself. What is it, young master Tang Bin? Lin Muyu smiled slightly. If you have something to say, just say it. Tang Bin nodded. There are a total of 3 Tang sect medallions in this world. One is with grandfather, one is with me, and one is with Xiao Shi. However, Xiao Shi's medallion seems to have already been given to you. The Xiao Shi is not very sensible and doesn't know how precious the Tang sect medallion is. Thus, I, Tang Bin, can only overstep my authority. I hope that Commander Lin can return that Tang sect medallion. Oh! Lin Muyu took out the heavy Tang sect medallion from her universe pouch. What does young Master Tang Bin plan to do with this Tang sect medallion? Bring it back to 7 Seas City. It belongs to 7 Seas City. But this was given to me by Xiao Shi. If I give it to you, won't I be betraying Xiao Shi? Lin Muyu's gaze was filled with provocation. Since Duke Lan gave this Tang sect medallion to Xiao Shi, it means that all the authority of this medallion is given to Xiao Shi. Thus, if I return it, I can only return it to Xiao Shi, not you. Tang Bin raised his eyebrows. Lin Muyu, I hope you understand the value of this Tang sect medallion. Anyone who holds this Tang sect medallion can deploy any army in 7 Seas province with no more than 50,000 soldiers. The authority bestowed by this medallion is even greater than that of the Dragon Talisman. Do you think I will leave this medallion in the hands of an outsider? Lin Muyu smiled. Then I will return the medallion to Xiao Shi. What if I say no? Tang Bin's gaze was cold. As the princess of 7 Seas, Xiao Shi is insensible enough to give the Tang sect medallion to an unrelated person. She is no longer fit to hold this Tang sect medallion. I have to take it back to 7 Seas province and hand it over to my grandfather. This is our 7 Seas Tang sect's business. Lin Muyu, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't meddle in the Tang sect's business. Lin Muyu was someone who could be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. She said proudly, Shao Shi is my friend. If someone wants to steal something from my friend, I won't allow it. Shao Shi, are you willing to hand over the Tang sect medallion to him? Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips. She looked at Tang Bin and said, Brother, I will personally go back and hand this Tang sect medallion to my grandfather. I won't trouble you to come and get it. Tang Bin raised his brows and said, Little Shi, you're still young, and there are many things you don't understand. As your older brother, I naturally have to teach you how to interact with others. Some people aren't worthy of being your friend. Lin Muyu suddenly slammed the table and shouted in a low voice, Tang Bin, say it again if you have the guts. Tang Bin suddenly smiled. He spread his arms and said, Lin Muyu, do you want to fight with me? General Li, call our people over. Tell them that Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lan and Yen and the 4 generals of wind, rain, thunder, and lightning, is going to fight with me. At the side, General Li quickly blew a whistle. Immediately, the forest in the distance shook, and in the next moment, the sound of iron hooves thundered. At least 1,000 cavalrymen appeared on the official road, each of them wearing a red fox emblem on their shoulders. That was the symbol of the 7 Seas Tang sect. So they brought the army? Lin Muyu spread out her hands and said with a smile, No wonder they are so arrogant. If I had known it would be like this, I would have brought the Imperial Guard over. I wanted to see if the 7 Seas Tang sect's army was as strong as the legends say. Tang Bin smiled faintly. It's a pity that Commander Lin didn't bring her own army. What a pity. However, I still don't want to hand over the Tang sect's Iron Order. What should I do? Lin Muyu turned around and stood up. She stuffed the Tang sect's Iron Order into Tang Xiaoxi's palm and said with a smile, Now the Iron Order belongs to Shao Shi. Tang Bin, as her brother, are you going to use the army in your hands to seize Shao Shi's Iron Order? That is equivalent to seizing the 50,000 soldiers in 7 Seas City that Shao Shi controls? Tang Bin said coldly, Shao Shi is my sister. Don't try to sow discord between us. Lin Muyu snorted coldly. Is that so? Tang Bin, you are already the greatest successor of 7 Seas City. Why are you still so greedy? Why are you even determined to obtain Shao Shi's Tang sect's Iron Order? Nonsense. Don't slander me. Slander you? Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. Do you dare to say that you are not worried that Shao Shi is deeply doted on by Duke Lan and will seize your right of inheritance? Do you dare to say that you are not worried that Shao Shi will threaten you? Tang Bin's face turned red and he was speechless. General Li, who was behind him, had already mounted his horse. He waved his saber and said with a smile, Young master, there is no need to talk so much with him. Just order the cavalry to charge and take this brat's life. Just say that he stole our Tang sect's Iron Order. The evidence is conclusive. I believe that His Majesty will have nothing to say. Tang Xiaoxi hurriedly spread her arms in front of Lin Muyu. Her pretty face was full of anger as she shouted, Li Lianyi, you bastard who can't tell right from wrong. Are you going to attack me? Li Lianyi was stunned. At this moment, the dense sound of horse hooves came from afar. Not long after, a group of Imperial Army cavalry appeared in their field of vision. The leading general pulled out his sword from afar and shouted in a low voice, An unknown army has entered the territory of Lanyan City. Brothers, prepare for battle. It was none other than one of the Kiliarchs of the Imperial Army and the former Gold Star instructor of the Holy Temple, Jianghu. 1,000 Imperial Army soldiers arrived aggressively. Lin Muyu spread his arms and said with a smile, Lord Jianghu, don't be in a hurry to charge. This is just a misunderstanding, He was overjoyed. Jianghu had come just in time. It was as if he had come out of nowhere. Jianghu naturally knew the pros and cons. He raised his thick eyebrows and dismounted. Oh, it's young Master Tang Bin. I was wondering who it was. However, young Master Tang Bin, all frontier vassals need to report to the army before they enter the capital. We, the Imperial Army, did not receive any report from the 1007 Seas City Cavalry led by young Master Tang Bin. Young Master, is there some misunderstanding? Tang Bin clenched his teeth and cupped his fists. Lord Jianghu, it is indeed a misunderstanding. These 1000 cavalry were just sent by 7 Seas City to protect me. I did not have the time to report to the Imperial Army. Please forgive me, Lord Jianghu. Zhang Wei's lips curled up. Oh, so it really is a misunderstanding. Old Zhang, thought that young master wanted to make a move on Lady Lin Muyu. Lady Lin Muyu is one of the newly conferred 4 heroes of Lan Yen. Whoever dares to make a move on her is a provocation to His Majesty's imperial authority. Since it's not the case, that's great. Young master, please leave. I still have a mission to patrol the city. Old Zhang, please forgive me for not sending you off. Tang Bin nodded. All right, we will meet again in the future. Have a safe trip, I won't send you off. Although Tang Bin was unwilling, he did not have the slightest chance this time. The 1000 Imperial Army soldiers led by Zhang Wei were all elite cavalry. They might not lose to his 1007 Seas City Cavalry. Moreover, there was also Lin Muyu, whose strength was unfathomable. Furthermore, Tang Xiaoxi was deeply doted on by Tang Lan. If this matter were to blow up, it would not do him any good. After watching Tang Bin and the others leave, Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips and said, Mu, I'm really sorry this time. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Holding her little hand, she said, with our friendship, there is no need to say sorry. But this Tang Bin is really too overbearing. It would be terrible if the 7 Seas province were to be handed over to such a person in the future. Could it be that Xiao Shi, don't you want to take back your position as the successor of 7 Seas City? But Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes were filled with helplessness. Chapter 203. But what? Lin Muyu laughed softly. Could it be that you want to see that scene again? Tang Bin uses his power to bully others. Not only does he bully you, but he also bullies your friends. Can you endure all of this? I don't want to. Tang Xiaoxi bit her lips and said, he and I are brother and sister. For the sake of power, I don't want things to go to that stage. But this has been the case since ancient times. Duke Lan dotes on you so much and will definitely leave a place in 7 Seas City for you. At that time, it is inevitable that Tang Bin will attack you with his sword. So it is better to make a decision as soon as possible. Lin Muyu's gaze was sincere and Tang Xiaoxi almost couldn't bear to look at it. She blushed and said, but 7 Seas City has its rules. Only those who have mastered the Firefox seal have the right to become the Lord of 7 Seas City. Grandfather's Firefox seal has already reached perfection and Tang Bin's Firefox seal has also reached the 7th layer. But as a girl, I can't even control the 1st layer. It doesn't matter, there will definitely be a way. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, let's go ask the 2 elders Lei Hong and Chu Chu and see if they have a way to solve the problem of you being unable to cultivate the Firefox seal. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and nodded. She shook Lin Muyu's hand and said with a smile, Mu, it is good to have you here. Lin Muyu smiled and said, do you feel that I am more reliable than your brothers? Don't worry, Xiao Shi, I will protect you well in the future and won't let anyone bully you. Good, I will remember what you said today. You must also remember it. I will. Zhang Wei was dumbstruck. My goodness, you guys are treating this general like air and talking about love here. Don't you care about the feelings of a single person like me? Lin Muyu chuckled. Thank you, Lord Zhang Wei, for coming in time this time. In the future, I will definitely put in a good word for you in front of Feng Jixing so that you can become captaincy as soon as possible. Thank you very much, Madam Lin Muyu. I know that you dote on me the most. Tang Xiaoxi was a bit speechless. She looked at Lin Muyu and then at Zhang Wei with worry in her eyes. She grabbed Lin Muyu's hand tightly and said, Mu, let's hurry back to the city. We can't stay here for long. All right. At night, in the Zetian Palace, the moonlight shone on the imperial city like water. Outside Phoenix Perching Palace Hall, Chu Huang led 20 dragon guards to guard the balcony with their swords and sabers. The moonlight shone on their silver armor, giving off a holy glow. Although the night was cold and bleak, these loyal dragon guards were like stone statues that did not fear the cold. Inside the palace hall, there was a pot of soup on the stove that was slowly boiling. Chu Chu and Rui Hong sat on the floor, sipping tea while Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Lin Muyu accompanied them. It wasn't easy to invite Rui Hong here in the middle of the night. Furthermore, Chu Chu was also here. It was a rare opportunity for the Empire's two great saints to gather. This is indeed a difficult problem. Rui Hong muttered to himself and looked at Tang Xiaoxi. Princess, she is a woman after all, so her physique and the structure of her energy sea are very different from a man's. The Firefox seal is a kind of ultimate technique that is domineering and powerful. A non-man's energy sea is unable to nurture the fire origin energy of the Firefox seal, and without the fire origin energy of the eyes, it is impossible to condense the Firefox seal. Tang Xiaoxi's little mouth twitched, but she didn't say anything. Lin Muyu asked on her behalf, "Great Deacon, what is the difference between a man and a woman's energy sea? Why is it that Xiao Yin can use such a powerful martial soul like the God-binding chains, but Xiao she can't condense the Firefox seal?" There is a huge difference. The one who spoke was Chu Chu. He raised his head and said, although the God-binding chains are powerful and domineering, it is still a martial soul inherited from the bloodline. Although Princess Xiao Yin is a woman, the blood flowing in her body is the true dragon bloodline of the Qin family, so she can naturally bear the domineering God-binding chains. However, Princess Xi's body is very different. She is an extremely normal woman. Lei Hong continued, the Sea of Qi is condensed in the Dantian. In the Dantian of a man, there is a profound latch called Guanyun. Every man is born, this Guanyuan profound latch is opened, so it has endless benefits, and can practice any kind of powerful martial arts. But after a woman is born, this Guanyuan profound latch is sealed, unless she can open the profound latch, otherwise, she can't practice some extreme yang techniques. Lin Muyu seemed to see a glimmer of hope and said, then can't we just open Xiao Xi's origin gate? Lei Hong shook his head and said, no. A woman's primordial profound latch is like her own body. Every woman is born with a virgin body. Only after having intercourse with a man will the lower body's profound latch be broken, but the profound latch in the Qi Sea cannot be broken. Once it is broken, the Qi Sea will leak out, which is equivalent to crippling the Qi Sea. Immediately, the faces of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi turned bright red. Lin Muyu was speechless and said, the metaphor of a virgin body? It can't be that melodramatic, right? Grand Deacon, don't tell me that the only way is for Xiao Xi to open the profound gate with a man. Lei Hong glanced at him. In your dreams. Even if that's the case, it won't help. The only way is to open the profound latch and protect Princess Xi's Sea of Qi from leaking. Otherwise, even if the profound latch is broken, once the Sea of Qi leaks, she'll be as good as crippled. Then is there any other way? Lin Muyu was a little anxious. Chu Chu smiled slightly and said, Little Lin, why are you so anxious for Princess Xi? Lin Muyu said, Chu, you don't know, but Tang Bin of Seven Seas City is overbearing. If it wasn't for me and Zhang Wei today, I'm afraid he would have forcefully snatched the Tang Sect Iron Token from Xiao Xi's hands. So that's how it is. Chu Chu stroked his beard and a glint shot out from his eyes. Seven Seas City is indeed a huge variable in the Empire. There are more than 200,000 soldiers stationed in Seven Seas City. They are strong and have many strong generals. Tang Bin, Tang Lu, and Tang Tian aren't easy to deal with either. Currently, Duke Lan is still alive and can stabilize the situation in Seven Seas Province. But if he leaves one day, I'm afraid there will be chaos in Seven Seas City. As he spoke, Chu Chu looked at Lin Muyu and said, You did the right thing by helping Princess Xi seize power. This way, Her Highness will have Princess Xi's help when she ascends the throne. Otherwise, when Her Highness Xiao Yin ascends the throne, the Empire will be in chaos before her wings are fully grown. Qin Yin was stunned. Father's body is still healthy. It won't happen, Chu Chu shook his head and said, Her Majesty's wind-cold physique is getting weaker by the day. Xiao Yin, why are you deceiving yourself? You're the heir to the throne, and one day, you'll be in charge of the empire. There are some things that you should plan ahead of time. Raham and I are still alive, and we're still able to contribute to your Highness's empire. However, if one day Raham and I are gone, your Highness can only rely on your peers like Ayu, Feng Jixing, and Princess Shi. Qin Yin's eyes turned red. I understand. Lei Hong stroked his white beard and said with a smile, don't scare Her Highness. It's not that scary. I think that although Her Majesty's body is weak, she can at least continue to be on the throne for another 10 years. Moreover, you also saw that Her Majesty conferred the titles of Wind, Rain, Thunder, and Lightning Generals yesterday. In fact, it is to help Xiao Yin cultivate her own generals. Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei, and Chu Huayin have limitless futures. With the 4 of them, the empire of the Qin Empire will be half-stabilized. Qin Yin blinked her eyes and looked at Lin Muyu. She suddenly asked, Brother Yu, you will always be by my side, right? Lin Muyu was stunned. Looking at Qin Yin's beautiful face, she couldn't help but feel a little flustered. She nodded and said, Yes, as long as Xiao Yi needs me, I will not leave her. Qin Yin smiled sweetly, and she had a beauty that could topple all living things. Lei Hong frowned and said, It seems that the matter of helping Princess Shi regain the position of the successor of Seven Seas City is imperative. Forget it, forget it. Her Highness Xiao Yin, please allow me and Chu to read in the library tonight. How about it? I want to read the ancient books in the Empire's collection. Perhaps if I'm lucky, I can find the method to let Princess Shi cultivate the Firefox seal. Yes. Qin Yin nodded heavily. I will write a document in a while and let the officials in the library let you in. Lin Muyu said, Shall I go with you? One more person means a little more hope. Lei Hong nodded approvingly. All right, then you will go with us. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi looked at each other and smiled. Thus, they didn't even need to write the document and decided to go together late at night. The 5 of them were also destined to spend the night in the library. Late at night, there were a total of 10 stoves in the library to keep warm, but it still couldn't stop the cold wind from blowing in through the cracks in the door. Lin Muyu sat among a pile of ancient books and flipped through them one by one. After entering this world for so long, she basically knew the words of this world, so it wasn't difficult for her to flip through them. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi lit up the oil lamps and sat at the table, reading the ancient books under the watch of the maids. As for Lei Hong and Chu Chu, they were constantly wandering among the books, their brows furrowed. Outside the library, Chu Huaying and the other 21 dragon guards were still waiting outside. The moonlight was cold, and frost appeared on their shoulders, but no one moved. They still stood majestically in the cold wind. All they could do was use their vital energy to resist the cold, but how could the strength of a human body go against nature? In the blink of an eye, all of their faces turned purple from the cold. When the first ray of sunlight penetrated the clouds and landed in Lanyan City, Chu Chu's slightly excited voice came from the library. Found it. I found it. What is it? Lin Muyu flipped over and rushed over with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. They saw Chu Chu holding an ancient book in his hand. 3 words were written on the cover, Jin Pingmei. Lin Muyu's face immediately turned purple. Chu, did you take the wrong book? No, it's this one. Chu Chu smiled and said, we might have to rely on you to break Princess Shi's hidden latch this time. What do you mean? Jin Pingmei is a level 10 herb. Combined with level 9 Arhat fragrance, it can be refined into a level 10 medicine called the Perfection Medicine. Do you know about it as a medicine god? Chu Chu's face was full of excitement. Perfection Medicine? Lin Muyu was shocked. Chu Chu continued, It is said that 5,000 years ago, after the great Emperor Crimson Phoenix ascended to the throne, he visited the mortal realm and found a peerless beauty called Chu Rong. However, Chu Rong was no longer a virgin, so the Crimson Phoenix Emperor ordered the world-famous medicine god to create a medicine that could restore a girl's virginity. This is the Perfection Medicine. We can also use this method to open Princess Xi's origin profound latch. Lei Hong and I will use our sacred domain power to protect her Qi Si from leaking. In this short period of time, Princess Xi can cultivate the first level of the Firefox seal and drink the perfection medicine immediately. This way, Princess Xi might be able to cultivate the Firefox seal. Lin Muyu was dumbstruck. He had no choice but to write the word convinced. He rubbed his eyes and said, "All right then, we'll immediately search for the Jean Ping Mei and the Arhat fragrance." Damn, this Crimson Phoenix Emperor is also a Virgo with a severe virgin complex. People with OCD really can't afford to hurt him. All right, you're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.